my Marvel superhero girlfriend. Hey, Fanfic family. So glad to see you here again to continue this incredible adventure. As always, kindly remember, this story is 100% fiction, so don't go looking for dimensional portals in your closet. All rights to this fantastic novel belong to the original author. We're just your humble narrators of epic tales. Are you enjoying the fanfic? Show it by subscribing to our YouTube channel and dropping us a like. And if you're impatient for more exclusive content, our Patreon is your happy place. Chapter 201: The Secret of SYNOPSIS. Without the support of hardware like supercomputers and long-range satellites, the AI Alice, currently operating solely through a mobile phone, can only successfully hack into the highly encrypted and secure communications and intelligence systems when inside a shield building, where signals are not blocked. This is why Nian had asked Nick Fury to visit S.H.I.E.L.D. a few days ago. Therefore, the moment he entered, his purpose for this trip was essentially achieved. I see. Nian looked at the condensed information displayed on his phone screen after Alice successfully accessed S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters' intelligence system. His eyes sparkled, and he instantly learned so much about the origins of S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, the secrets hidden within S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, the cause of Nick Fury's death, and even the history of the Tesseract. At this moment, Nian's phone was filled with S.H.I.E.L.D.'s hidden secrets. If any of these were to be leaked, they would shock the world. Unfortunately, amidst this, the only things Nian hadn't learned was the whereabouts of Wanda's brother, Pietro, who had been abducted by SHIELD agents. But he was certain he wasn't at SHIELD headquarters. Nian tapped his phone lightly, saying, "Keep searching. Even if you have to search through every file at SHIELD headquarters and its branches worldwide, you'll find a single clue." "Yes, Master," Alice's sweet voice trailed off, and the phone screen flashed with a series of data codes again. Nian was about to put the phone down when, with a sound of approaching footsteps, a steaming, fragrant cup of coffee gently landed on the table in front of him. "Thank you," Nian smiled slightly, taking a sip. His eyes lit up. "It tastes good, almost as good as my maid back home." "You have a maid?" Sky frowned, feeling uneasy. Nian waved his hand, motioning Sky to take the seat in front. Then he asked, "Sky, do you know what the director of SHIELD is? What rank does he hold within SHIELD? Of course, it's no secret within SHIELD." Sky didn't know why Nian suddenly asked this, but she nodded and said softly, "The current director of SHIELD is Alexander Pierce. He was the former director of SHIELD, and later became director, replacing Nick Fury as the new director. The director of SHIELD generally oversees and handles matters within the agency, coordinating the execution of missions by agents from various departments. The minister of SHIELD, on the other hand, focuses on foreign affairs, often interacting with the board of directors or high-ranking members, working behind the scenes. Both the director and the minister hold the highest ranks within SHIELD, each holding a veto over SHIELD's operations. There's no distinction between high and low." At this point, Sky paused, as if struck by a thought, her beautiful eyes trembling. "Just now, Mr. Rogers, didn't you say you were going to take the elevator to the top floor to chat with the SHIELD director?" Nian shook his cup, took another sip of coffee, and asked meaningfully, "What do you think they were discussing right now?" Sky remained silent. Captain America and the SHIELD director weren't close. What could they possibly discuss? Perhaps it was just yesterday's assassination of Nick Fury by the Winter Soldier. But then there was a problem. Last night, Black Widow Natasha had said Captain America left to investigate the organization responsible for Nick Fury's murder. Yet, Captain America arrived at SHIELD headquarters today and went straight to the director's office. Sky shuddered and whispered, "Could it be that the captain, like me, has suspicions about headquarters, suspicions of a mole, so he's come here to confirm it?" "Correct." Nian put down his empty cup. As soon as he finished speaking, there was a clang. A dozen floors above, a resounding, crisp explosion. Then, a tall young man plummeted from outside the building, sending a shower of shattered elevator glass scattering in the air. It sped past the French window next to Nian and the others, crashing heavily into the open space in front of the main entrance on the first floor below. The noise sent S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters into a frenzy. The entire building erupted in excitement. "It's the captain." Sky, startled, stood up, watching the blonde young man struggling to stand, prop up his vibranium shield. We should go too. Nian suddenly stood up, picked up Xiao Wang with one hand, and took Sky's hand with the other, heading somewhere. Should we go save the captain? Sky asked, at that moment actually wanting the young man's opinion. What? You can't even save yourself. Nian, without even turning back, quickened his pace, pulling Sky along, and they quickly left the third-floor rest area. Shortly after they left, a team of agents arrived at the headquarters' third floor. The leading agent captain looked at the deserted rest area and the empty cup with coffee residue on the table, and cursed, "Fuck." He quickly issued orders to his team and the communicator, lock down SHIELD headquarters and find them. Yes. The elevator. The interior was covered with signs of fierce fighting. The glass on one side was shattered, and numerous bullet casings and magazines were scattered on the floor. Nian and Sky stepped on the broken glass to enter the empty elevator. Because the agents here had just been chasing Captain America, the elevator was currently unprotected. Of course, there was no need to protect it. After all, the elevator was in lockdown mode, prohibiting its use. We can't escape from here. The elevator is locked down and has built-in security cameras. Sky warned solemnly, watching the elevator's flashing red lights. She had now realized that SHIELD headquarters, or rather, the mastermind behind it, wanted to eliminate them. How would we know if we don't try? Nian, as if completely unaware of the situation, walked into the elevator as if she were still on a tourist tour and used her fingerprint to control it. He treated it like his own home. Wait? Sky wanted to stop him, but was quickly stunned. The elevator, which had been in red lockdown mode, unlocked and returned to normal operation with a green light. The floor the boy pressed was the hidden underground level of the headquarters building. 10th floor. Authorization confirmed, Nian Prince. The elevator beeped, and not only did it not sound the alarm, it actually started to descend. How did you do that? Sky stared at Nian in amazement. Even she couldn't go directly to 10th floor, it required extremely high permissions. She didn't believe that the director would give Nian such high-level permissions to the secret underground floors when he was alive. As for hacking the system? With the system protection level of SHIELD headquarters, even Sky, a professional hacker, had no confidence in breaking through the firewall in such a short time. I pressed the wrong button. Nian shrugged. Sky? I don't believe you. Chapter 202 The God's Adopted Son. SHIELD headquarters, top floor. What did you say? Say it again. Alexander Pierce, former SHIELD director and current minister, stood up from the leather sofa and barked into the intercom, somewhat uncomfortably. Report, Minister. The Special Forces captain's rapid response came over the intercom. Captain America has escaped SHIELD headquarters. The fighter jets were unable to stop him. Furthermore, Shockwave and the teenager are currently missing, having vanished from the surveillance footage throughout headquarters. Pierce's face paled slightly as he shouted angrily, "Mobilize all agents and intelligence personnel at headquarters. Find Captain America and eliminate him. As for Shockwave and the child, they must still be inside SHIELD headquarters. Search every floor immediately." Okay, Minister. Now. SHIELD headquarters, bottom floor. Sky, you know what's going on here, right? Nian and Sky stepped out of the elevator, and what greeted them was a massive underground factory. 3 massive, bizarrely shaped structures, resembling giant aircraft carriers, were under construction, with countless workers busily toiling underground. Besides the aircraft carriers, hundreds of ultra-modern fighter jets were parked within the factory, creating a formidable display of scale. It's an aircraft carrier. Sky looked up at the massive creation and pondered, Nick Fury once told me this is one of SHIELD's biggest secrets. SHIELD wants to build 3 aircraft carriers. Once launched, they'll never land, serving as permanent aerial fortresses. The ammunition and firepower aboard these aircraft carriers is enough to simultaneously protect the territories of several countries. She said gravely, it's called Project Insight. Aircraft carriers will fly overhead, revealing extraordinary dangers, eliminating those who pose a threat, and protecting peace on the surface. That's all it takes. Nian remained non-committal. He smiled and said, 3 days ago, Nick Fury spoke with the SHIELD minister. Nick Fury wanted to permanently end Project Insight. While he superficially agreed, he secretly contacted a mysterious force outside. Then, Nick Fury was attacked and killed. Do you even know what you're saying? Skye shuddered, staring intently at the boy. Although she had already suspected something, hearing these words was like being struck by thunder. That's the Minister of SHIELD, the former director. If even he's a mole, then what's going on inside SHIELD headquarters? It's unbelievable, terrifying. Even if this is true, how do you know? Skye, looking at the calm and composed Nian, couldn't help but ask again, who are you? You'll find out who I am sooner or later. For now, let's get out of here first. Nian finished, pointing ahead, where a super-modern fighter jet was parked. He asked curiously, Skye, can you fly it? Minister, look down. Hearing the hurried voice over the intercom, SHIELD. Minister Pierce stood up and quickly made his way to the top floor window. Looking down, he saw the underground factory suddenly open, and a fighter jet took off, its tail plume surging towards the azure sky above headquarters. How did they get underneath the factory? Aren't the elevators blocked? Pierce couldn't comprehend what was happening, and could only watch the fighter jet fly further and further away. But then, behind him, a ding-dong echoed from the quiet office. An elevator arrived at the top floor office. Wasn't the elevator locked? This question crossed his mind again, and a sudden chill ran down Pierce's spine. He nervously turned around. The elevator door opened, but inside, no one was there. Pierce was just about to breathe a sigh of relief when he saw a colorful sphere, like a glass ball, roll out of the empty elevator, onto the office floor, and towards him. What the hell? Pierce instinctively stepped back, leaning against a French window. The ball, as if alive, took off on its own, landing on him. Pierce felt a pain in his neck and reached out to touch his palm. Blood stained it. The glass ball was biting him. No, it was an unknown jellyfish. Furious, Pierce quickly grabbed the small, colorful jellyfish, opened the window, and dropped it. Before he could even breathe, Pierce heard more rolling noises behind him. He looked back in fear and saw dozens of iridescent jellyfish spheres tumbling out of the elevator. In New York City, a fighter jet broke through the clouds and soared into the sky. I hope he likes my farewell gift, Nian muttered to himself from the co-pilot seat of the fighter jet. He never hesitated to face hostile forces that attacked him, and he took revenge on the spot. However, Nian had no desire to get involved in SHIELD's internal strife. From meeting Nick Fury to exploring SHIELD headquarters, Nian's primary goal was to find Wanda's brother, Pietro. Since Pietro wasn't at SHIELD headquarters, he could only follow the clues. Fortunately, the artificial intelligence Alice had just discovered something interesting while tracing the IP address used by the SHIELD director to contact the Winter Soldiers faction. Where are you going? Asked Skye, who was piloting the fighter jet next to him. Let's go to New Jersey. Nian snapped his fingers, confidently saying, there, you should also find the ultimate secrets of SHIELD that you'd like to know. New Jersey. A long-abandoned, overgrown American base. This is. Skye glanced at the sign, surprised. A recruit base built during World War II, and the birthplace of Captain America as a superhero. Even you don't know, SHIELD actually existed as early as World War II. Nian, holding the little orange cat, crossed a marked radiation exclusion zone and entered a building. Skye followed closely behind. The large building was covered in dust and cobwebs, clearly untouched for a long time. But after the power was turned on, all the lights came on, illuminating the interior with a bright and spacious light. Nian was the first to enter the innermost room. He closed his eyes for a few seconds, then pointed accurately at a wooden frame to the side. There's a mechanism there. Skye stepped forward quickly, took a closer look, and discovered that there was indeed a hidden mechanism. What on earth are you doing? Skye wanted to ask another question, but she knew that Nian would not tell her, so she bit her lip and held back. Click. The mechanism was activated. After the wooden frame was removed, the basement was revealed. The two of them entered without hesitation. The next moment they stepped into the basement, the dim light inside turned on automatically. Many black and white computer screens lit up, and an old and hoarse voice sounded, "Welcome. Daisy Johnson." Also known as Skye, born on July 15, 1993, a level 10 agent of SHIELD, codenamed Shuck, possesses the ability of shock waves, and her father is the famous scientist Mr. Hyde. Nian Prince. Birth date unknown, adopted son of God. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 203. You've revealed your cards, so have I. Underground, in a long-abandoned U.S. military base. Adopted son of a god. Sky glanced at the boy beside him in disbelief. The raspy male voice from deep within the basement continued, "Yes. A human child raised by the superhero Wonder Woman Diana Prince." It must be said that as one ages, the things they witness become increasingly bizarre. Faced with a mysterious being who had suddenly revealed his identity, Nian smiled. That's it. After all this talk, this was all they knew about him. Was it because his extraordinary abilities were too well hidden, or was it that SHIELD's capabilities were limited? Would you like to introduce yourself, old man? While Sky was still on guard, Nian stepped forward, patted one of the main computers, and spoke casually. The main computers fell silent, and then countless black and white screens deep within the basement lit up, revealing the aged face of a white man wearing round-framed glasses, looking rather gentle. My name is Armin Zola, a German scientist working for the Red Skull during World War II. Before I died of cancer in 1972, I chose to upload my consciousness to the mainframe database here, where it remains forever. You can actually do that. Sky was shocked. Man and machine merging? What an old man. Nian's face remained calm, as if unsurprised. In fact, Alice had long been aware of the existence of this semi-artificial intelligence behind the scenes while searching through all the files at SHIELD headquarters. This semi-artificial intelligence had been protecting the mysterious forces of the Winter Soldier, and even Nick Fury, the director of SHIELD, was unaware of it. SHIELD secrets were also hidden and encrypted by it. It was precisely because of this existence that even Alice, the AI, could not locate Pietro at SHIELD headquarters. After all, many of SHIELD's secret intelligence files were not stored at the headquarters building, but were transferred to this intelligence hub, from where they were then transmitted elsewhere. Everything is just to hide the ultimate secret that is shocking the world at the moment. Wait a minute. You just said that you are a scientist under the Red Skull. Sky's beautiful face turned much paler, and her shallow dark lips were tightly pursed, finding it difficult to accept the truth of the moment. So, Nian touched his chin and sighed. This so-called SHIELD should be called Hydra, or Snake Shield would be more appropriate, right? You guessed right. On the computer screen, Dr. Zola had a faint smile on his old face, and he said slowly and proudly, the Hydra organization was not destroyed by Captain America during World War II. He was far from being able to do that. It's just that after the leader Red Skull disappeared, the Hydra organization chose to hide in various parts of the world, and parasitize the newly established SHIELD and has been growing until now. How could it be? Sky was like a believer whose faith had collapsed, and her graceful body trembled violently. Nian asked, Pietro, he was also kidnapped by your Hydra, right? You mean, one of the twins born in New York? Dr. Zola paused and said, that child is very special and can be helpful to Hydra. But even Pierce doesn't know where he is now, so you can't find him. Really? Nian narrowed his eyes, calm and composed, and no one knew what he was thinking. Project Insight. Sky took a deep breath, stared at the computer host, and asked in a deep voice, what exactly do you, Hydra, want to achieve with SHIELD's Project Insight? At this point, it doesn't matter if I tell you. Dr. Zola said bluntly and proudly, the most important aspects of Project Insight are, first, the strategic weapon, the aircraft carrier, and second, the SOAR algorithm. Through the SOAR algorithm, the aircraft carriers can simultaneously lock onto humans who pose a threat or influence to Hydra, politicians, lawyers, officers, soldiers, wealthy individuals, and so on. 3 aircraft carriers, using the algorithm, can kill 2 million humans in 1 second. Am I also within the kill range? Nian raised his hand like a student. No, you're not. Dr. Zola shook his head. According to the SOAR algorithm, even though you're the adopted son of a god, you can't pose any threat to Hydra. Nian. Good man, is that an insult? You're so happy to tell us these secrets, and it doesn't matter? You really don't treat us as human beings, do you? Nian blinked and said self-deprecatingly. Dr. Zora smiled, his voice smug, as if he had masterminded a plan. It doesn't matter. You can't leave here anyway. He laid his cards on the table. Haven't you noticed? I've been deliberately stalling for you. Sky's face changed drastically. Nian's expression remained unchanged. He pulled out his phone from his pocket, gestured, and smiled. What a coincidence. Me too. What did you say? Dr. Zora was stunned. At that moment, a portion of the black and white computer screen flickered, then switched to an image of a silver crown. In the basement, a pleasant, gentle female voice suddenly echoed, Master, a missile is approaching this way. 26 seconds remaining. Nian remained calm and issued an order, completely hack into the system here and make a copy of the encrypted, hidden Hydra intelligence files. Alice, executing. What have you done? On the remaining computer screens in the basement, Dr. Zora's expression was horrified. He discovered that his control was being steadily weakened, his permissions being modified one by one, and much of the encrypted, archived intelligence data was being forcefully copied across the firewall. How could this be possible? Dr. Zora couldn't comprehend it. After all, he was one with the machine, his consciousness was code. No hacker in the world could hack into the database he managed. And what's more, it was hacked in without him even noticing. Unless, artificial intelligence. Damn it, how could you have such advanced AI? Dr. Zora's voice rang out in shock and anger. He was under the most brutal invasion, and his defenses, unbreakable for decades, were rapidly collapsing. He was still a semi-artificial intelligence, a human transformed into a computer system program. In terms of computing, he was far inferior to Alice, the artificial intelligence created for this very purpose. If this continued, in the remaining 10 seconds, all of Hydra's intelligence would be leaked to him and known to the enemy. Dr. Zola observed Nian's usual calm face through the basement surveillance camera. What was even more difficult for him to understand was, is this young man willing to risk his life for this information? Missiles are about to bomb this place. Chapter 204, No Solution, Iron Man's Nian. Then let's die here together. Dr. Zola, realizing he had no power to resist, gave up resistance, his face grim as he chose another, final, measure. The AI, Alice, promptly responded, Master, he's activated the system's self-destruct sequence, which cannot be reversed. Also, the missile has 10 seconds left and will arrive soon. 10, 9. Alice's countdown began, like the whisper of death. Bang! Sky swiftly slammed her palm down on the ground, causing the basement floor to vibrate violently. A small piece of sheet metal was lifted up, revealing a hole deep beneath the ground large enough for a person to lie down. Nian, lie down. Sky gritted her teeth, fighting back the dizziness. Her beautiful eyes, filled with an inexplicable emotion, she called out with determination to the young man beside her, if you can survive, help me tell Captain America and Natasha everything about Hydra's infiltration of SHIELD and the secrets of Project Insight. Nian understood Sky's meaning. After a moment's deliberation, he leaped into the underground hole. Sky was about to cover the hole in the ground when the young man suddenly reached out, grabbed her ankle, and dragged her down. Normally, Sky would have reacted quickly, but she was still dizzy from having just used her powers, and she was caught off guard and fell into the hole as well. 5, 4. Alice continued, the countdown nearing 0. Sky, trapped in the hole, struggled and cried out excitedly, What are you doing? Without me out there blocking the missiles, you'll be dead. Use the shockwave to protect yourself, idiot. Nian sighed, then suddenly reached out and hugged Sky, pressing her into the hole beneath him. As he finished this move, Alice's countdown began, 2, 1. It was accompanied by Dr. Zola's unwavering and high-pitched words, Long live Hydra. Outside, above the abandoned American base, a streak of orange flame appeared from the distant night sky, landing with incredible speed and precision on a large building. A targeted missile strike. In that instant. Boom. The entire 3-story building, sprawling across a vast expanse of ground, exploded, its walls, windows, and everything within shattered. The massive blast and shockwaves penetrated the ground, piercing through it and indiscriminately reaching the basement where the main computer was stored. Meow. Little Emperor, outside the hole, widened his cat-like eyes, his fur bristling as a thick black blanket spread from his tail upwards. The blast swept through every corner of the basement, quickly pouring into the underground cavity, first impacting Nian's back, who was pinned atop Sky. No! Sky cried out, then quickly stopped. Boom! Like exploding thunder, like raging crimson flames. The shockwave and intense heat of the blast instantly ignited the boy's shirt, revealing his muscular body beneath. His body, proportioned to the golden ratio, lacked a trace of excess fat, its muscles bulging like an assembly line, yet never appearing overweight. It was as perfect as a steel statue. Sizzle! His pants and shoes were instantly incinerated. Exploding streams of flame, blazing like molten lava, washed over the boy's body, destroying everything without even scratching a hair. Shockwave. Sky was startled for a moment, then, without hesitation, unleashed her own power. The blast waves and impact, slowed by the boy's body, were pushed back by waves of shockwaves emanating from the air just as they were about to strike her. Of course, these shockwaves also affected Nian, who was pressing down on her. However, despite simultaneously enduring the missile blast and shockwaves, the boy remained unshaken, holding himself up without any pressure. Sky, dazed, gazed at the black-haired boy in front of her, completely exposed to the blast, his perfect body bathed in a layer of crimson flames. For a moment, it was as if she were witnessing a divine being, towering above, casting a ray of pity. At the site of the former U.S. base, the buildings had been obliterated by missiles, leaving only a scorched earth. A rustling sound. The layer of ash covering his body fell away like black snow, and the young man climbed out of the underground cave, his naked body, indirectly enduring the missile bombardment, remaining unscathed. Are you okay? Nian brushed the ash from his hair, looking down at the cave below. A graceful figure wrapped in a tight black agent uniform rose. Sky coughed, and when she looked up, something obtrusive blocked her view. Sky started, quickly looking away, then couldn't help but ask, "Why did you save me?" Just think of it as returning the clothes I borrowed, but unfortunately they're completely rotten. Nian was unconcerned. Also, I'm too lazy. You guys at SYNOPSIS should handle yourselves. I'm too lazy to bother with him. Nian was shrugging when, not far away, a cloud of ash slightly dispersed, and an orange figure leaped out from it. It's okay, it's just a missile. Nian smiled, picked up the little emperor, petted him to comfort him, and then reached into the cat's mouth. Give me some clothes, just ordinary ones. Quickly, under Sky's startled gaze, Nian pulled a set of casual clothes out of the cat's mouth. Nian, are you a god? Sky asked. Nian shook his head and put on his clothes. He replied, no. I'm just a human favored by the goddess. Stepping out of the ruins of the missile-ravaged base, Nian looked at Sky, still in a trance, and winked. Since I saved your life, can you help me keep my secret? You're a SHIELD agent, after all. I don't want my secrets to be known by 10, 100, or even 1,000 people starting tomorrow. No one would believe you even if you told them. Sky gritted her teeth. This guy, with Wonder Woman as his backer, he kept pretending to be an ordinary student with her. Despite possessing a physique impervious to missile strikes and shockwaves, he feigned fear of attack in the car. Despite possessing artificial intelligence and a strange cat, he still relied on her, an agent. Sky had truly believed she had to rely on herself for everything. She'd been on the run for a whole day and night, her mind constantly on edge. To her surprise, the burden was actually herself. You can't leave yet, Sky suddenly said. Why? Nian looked at Sky curiously. He had gotten what he wanted, the purpose of his trip fully achieved, and he had classes tomorrow. Regarding SHIELD, you must take full responsibility. Sky glared at him with resentment. Huh? Was this still the same cool, stoic agent? Nian was a little confused. Was he really going to rely on him? Sky took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, help me resolve SHIELD's current situation, and I'll keep it a secret for you. Furthermore, I'll eliminate any enemies who seek to uncover your identity. I'll also notify you of any SHIELD actions. Nian pondered. This condition is not bad. Nian has no intention of taking control of SHIELD, but that doesn't mean he will let SHIELD continue like this. Just like dealing with the Empire in the underwater world. Nian just wants it to return to its original stability, and in the future, it will not be able to pose any real threat to him. I can promise you that I will help you deal with SHIELD's current affairs, but I also have a condition. Nian raised his eyes and met Sky's gaze. What condition? Sky's face suddenly turned red, and he asked while forcing himself to remain calm. I want you, Nian said in a deep voice, to be the next director of SHIELD. Chapter 205, Nian's Invincible Shockwave. Under Nian's gaze, Sky's beautiful eyes flickered with hesitation, but she quickly gritted her teeth and said, okay, I promise. I'll do my best to become the next director of SHIELD. Not try my best, Nian shook his head. He shed his usual student-like demeanor and spoke with unwavering conviction, I absolutely must. After this incident, SHIELD would undoubtedly undergo a major purge, and its future structure would be drastically altered. Nian didn't want his efforts to go to waste. He hoped that the reorganized SHIELD would be led by someone he could trust. Sky was a perfect fit, the only choice at the moment. So, he made this his condition for taking action. Sky took a deep breath and nodded firmly, okay, I'll take the next director of SHIELD. That's right, Nian smiled. How are you going to help me resolve the SHIELD situation? Sky asked solemnly, looking the young man straight in the eye. It's simple, indeed, compared to what I encountered earlier, it was nothing more than a minor incident. Nian muttered to himself, then looked at Sky. I need you to do something for me. You tell me, as long as I can do it. Sky clenched her gloved fists with unwavering determination. Kiss me. Huh? Sky's face froze, her newly formed resolve crumbling. She stared at Nian, her face filled with astonishment. Kiss me, is that hard to understand? Nian spread his hands. This. Sky seemed at a loss, unsure where to put her hands, hesitantly gazing at the scorched earth surrounding her, freshly flattened by the missiles. Right here. Wait, right outside SHIELD headquarters would be fine, Nian pondered. Or maybe. Close your eyes and let me initiate it. I'll give you a chance, and if you don't. He hadn't finished his words when he was suddenly tackled to the ground, tossing the little emperor aside. You damned fellow, I've been putting up with you for so long. Sky bit Anron's lower lip and snorted coldly like a madman. Then, she leaned down without hesitation, and as her dark golden hair fell, her slightly cold dark lips covered him. It was more like biting than covering, it was as if all the resentment that Nian had concealed from her before, the anger of being treated as a nanny even though she was an agent, and the shame that she had been suppressing in her heart were vented on the boy at once. Nian secretly felt lucky that he had a body of steel, otherwise he would have been bitten all over his mouth. What surprised him was that Sky's movements were very clumsy, and she was just holding back her anger, pretending to be skilled and rough and taking the initiative. You still want me to do it? Nian sighed secretly. He put his hand on the back of Sky's head, and leaned forward. Sky froze. Nian instantly seized the initiative. Beneath her cold, dark softness, she revealed a warm, gentle, and smooth air, just like the warm-hearted older sister beneath her agent's exterior. Medium, 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 medium. Nian began to seize the opponent's medium. Night fell. In New York, at SHIELD headquarters. Under orders from the top brass, no one left SHIELD headquarters today. Agents and employees were working overtime, and the lights within the headquarters and factory were as bright as day. The entire SHIELD headquarters was mobilized like a war machine, launching an online search for the suspected killer of the director of SHIELD and Captain America, Steve Rogers. Agent Skeeter, codenamed Shock, and Agent Natasha, codenamed Black Widow, were also on SHIELD's blacklist. At that moment, in the top floor office of SHIELD headquarters, the bald agent Sitwell crouched down. With a solemn expression, he used his disposable gloved hand to pick up a blood-stained, torn corner of his suit sleeve from a pool of blood by the floor-to-ceiling window. Alexander Pierce is dead. Agent Sitwell's face was filled with shock. His hand trembled, and his torn sleeve fell back into the pool of blood. Behind him stood a group of fully armed SHIELD agents. But everyone standing in the penthouse felt a chill run down their spines. The minister of SHIELD, the most powerful and prestigious figure in the agency, was dead just like that? He died in his own penthouse office for no apparent reason, even simpler than the death of SHIELD. Director Nick Fury, and not even a complete body was left behind. Even if Pierce dies, Project Insight must be carried out. Agent Sitwell was silent for a moment, then quickly made up his mind and shouted enthusiastically, "For Hydra!" Inside the office, a dozen SHIELD agents responded in unison, "Long live Hydra! This has long since gone beyond our plan. No time for further delay. I'm launching Project Insight now. For Hydra!" A team leader, hearing the noise coming from the intercom, immediately led another team of agents to the aircraft carrier factory beneath SHIELD headquarters without hesitation. The terror of Hydra is about to return to the world. In New Jersey, outside the abandoned American base, two beams of light pierced the night like bright sticks. A regular red car pulled up beside the base, and a man and a woman stepped out of the driver's seat. The man was tall and handsome, holding a round shield. The woman was beautiful and cool, wearing a black uniform. Weren't they Captain America and Black Widow, who had escaped from SHIELD that day? Following the clues they had traced their trail all the way here, hoping to uncover SHIELD's secrets. However, Rogers and Natasha stared at the scorched, deserted base, stunned, looking at each other. Are we too late? On the bridge leading to SHIELD headquarters, on the island within the city. The vast lake was serene, the sounds of insects and frogs echoing. One by one, the SHIELD agents patrolling the perimeter lost their ability to resist, collapsing to the ground, some with their necks broken. Two figures emerged from the darkness onto the gently lit bridge. "What should I do next?" asked a cold and beautiful woman with dark blonde hair. "You don't have to do anything, just watch," the black-haired boy said, letting the female agent help him hold the little orange cat while he took a few steps forward to the center of the bridge. Nian's eyes blazed as he gazed at the SHIELD headquarters complex 1,000 meters ahead. He slowly crouched down, placing his right palm on the bridge. "What are you going to do?" Sky was bewildered. As if precociously aware, the little emperor raised his white-gloved cat paws and covered his ears tightly. The next moment, Sky's eyes widened in shock. The gravel on the bridge deck began to vibrate, and beneath the bridge, ripples spread across the tranquil lake. Buzz! With Nian at the center, the entire bridge suddenly vibrated, and the air trembled. How is this possible? Sky gaped in disbelief at the young man before her. There was no mistaking it, shockwave. Her unique ability. However, this time, the power of the shockwave far surpassed her previous ones. Sky, watch carefully. This is how you use shockwave. Nian slammed his left hand down, resting it against the bridge deck. His palms carried terrifying power. As both hands touched the ground simultaneously, a powerful shockwave radiated outwards. It was a shockwave far superior to Sky's previous ones, 10, 100, even 1,000 times more powerful. Buzz! In an instant, the bridge trembled violently, threatening to collapse. The lake beneath exploded, its turbulent water rising like a roaring ocean wave. Not only the reinforced bridge, but the entire artificial island within the city began to tremble and shake. Crack! A startling crack erupted from the bridge deck just in front of Nian's hands, and the crack grew ever wider. The crack in the ground spread forward like a flash of lightning, hurtling towards the SHIELD headquarters complex. The earth trembled. SHIELD headquarters, the intelligence center. Under the bright daylight, everyone in the vast intelligence room was preoccupied. They sat at their computers, most staring blankly at their screens. So much had happened in the past 2 days. First, the director of SHIELD was attacked and killed, then Captain America escaped, and now even the director of SHIELD was dead. It could be said that today was SHIELD's darkest day. The tense, hushed atmosphere of the intelligence room was quickly shattered by a single sound. Crack! A glass tumbled onto the polished floor, shattering, spilling its brown coffee. "Sorry, I didn't mean to. It just fell on its own," the owner frantically said, facing hundreds of gazes. Before she could explain, crack, 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 countless glasses tumbled from the vibrating, tilted tables. Computer screens and ceiling lights swirled violently, blurring the light and shadows. Deep cracks burst open from one wall, and the bulletproof floor-to-ceiling windows shattered with a frail shattering. Inside, the SHIELD employees froze for a moment, their faces pale. Earthquake. Run. Countless people instinctively fled. Buzz! In the factory, 10 floors below, a massive aircraft carrier tilted, and workers screamed and ran for their lives. Hundreds of meters above, on the top floor of SHIELD, The office was noticeably tilting and shaking, furniture and decorations crashing down. A massive shockwave, transmitted through the ground, clearly reaching every corner of SHIELD. Sky covered her mouth, suppressing her horror. Nian was actually using her ability, and with even greater skill and power than she herself. In theory, shockwaves could indeed reach terrifying levels, even enough to cause earthquakes. However, due to a unique characteristic of shockwave power, Sky would never be able to achieve the theoretical level of its potential. When using shockwave power externally, the user's body would experience a certain amount of backlash. Even Sky, with her exceptional human physique, couldn't use shockwaves for extended periods or with excessive force, or she would be knocked unconscious by the backlash. Nian, possessing the shockwave power, was no exception. After all, the backlash wasn't a drawback, but a characteristic of the power. It was like a double-edged sword. It was like a limit imposed by God on this incredible power, a taboo. However, while Nian certainly couldn't escape the backlash, he could endure it head-on, a man of steel. Ignoring the recoil force that would shatter an ordinary person's bones, Nian braced himself on the ground with his hands, unleashing his shockwave ability to unprecedented levels of power. He stared straight ahead. If he wanted to, Nian could take advantage of the situation and destroy SHIELD headquarters, burying everyone within. However, there was no need. While SHIELD was considered the most infiltrated, in reality, aside from many executives and agents, the vast majority of employees were merely unwitting workers. This was the most challenging aspect of handling this SHIELD incident. If the handling was too harsh, many innocent people would die. If the purge wasn't thorough, many Hydra personnel would escape, and SHIELD would remain the same Hydra as always. Hydra, the most sophisticated and infiltrated villain of World War II, was so effective at concealing itself that even standing right in front of him, it would be difficult to tell whether they were Hydra or ordinary SHIELD employees. Alice, it's up to you, Nian said inexplicably while manipulating the shockwave. Yes, Master. Alice's sweet voice rang from his cell phone. The next moment, cameras in every corner of the SHIELD headquarters suddenly spun, scanning the countless people fleeing in panic. 2 or 3 seconds later, a number of people were marked with a red dot by the cameras. Despite Hydra's Dr. Zola having just destructed the system program, Alice Hyde still managed to steal some Hydra intelligence, including a list of individuals who had infiltrated SHIELD. I see it, Nian said, closing his eyes and sensing the shockwaves sweeping across SHIELD headquarters. The shockwaves, coupled with his spider sense, allowed him to clearly identify the individuals marked by the red dot. From 1,000 meters away, Nian pressed his hands together. Within the trembling SHIELD headquarters, an intelligence officer marked by a red dot was fleeing. He suddenly felt a vibration rising from the floor beneath his feet. A subtle and powerful shockwave rippled through his body, sending a cloud of blood spraying from his legs. The bones in his lower body had been shattered. Amidst screams and cries of terror, some fleeing SHIELD personnel collapsed to the ground like straw. What is this? In the top floor office at headquarters, Agent Sitwell stared blankly at the red cursors appearing on himself and the dozen or so SHIELD agents around him. The next moment, a powerful shockwave, like an invisible tidal wave of energy, washed over them. Screams rang out, and Sitwell and the agents fell, clutching their legs. His Iron Man allowed Nian to ignore a certain degree of recoil. His spider sense allowed him to manipulate the shockwaves for precise strikes. Shockwave mode was the first such unique ability Nian had used since acquiring the Iron Man and spider sense. It was simply perfect. Of all the extraordinary abilities Nian had acquired, Shockwave was undoubtedly the most powerful for clearing out small troops. As long as the opponent's physique couldn't withstand the shockwave, he would destroy them all. Like mowing grass. Hydra personnel lurking within SHIELD fell one after another, their lower bodies shattered and paralyzed. In the underground factory control room. Damn it, damn it, damn it. Crossbones, the Special Forces captain, spat as he looked back at his agents collapsing one after another. With bloodshot eyes, he sprinted forward with all his might, bursting into the already evacuated factory control room. He took one final step. A piercing pain shot up from the sole of his foot, his boot instantly ripped apart by the shockwave. Crossbones' foot was a bloody mess, his flesh spurting out. His instantly shattered bones couldn't support his legs, and he fell forward. At the last moment, Crossbones slammed his hand onto a red button, muttering like as Elliot, "Hail Hydra!" The system activated. With a roar, the ground on one side of SHIELD headquarters opened in both directions, revealing the massive aircraft carrier in the factory below. The aircraft carrier's chassis resembled a 1,000-fold magnified steel armor engine, spewing out a dazzling white light. The moment the three ships rose one after another, they threatened to illuminate the entire city island. Thousands of meters away from SHIELD headquarters, Nian and Sky's eyes also reflected the magnificent, blazing white light. Alice's voice rang out from the phone, "Master, the aircraft carrier's own protection system controls it. I can't penetrate it anytime soon. Nian, we can't let the aircraft carrier take off. Project Insight will be activated." Sky cried out in panic. "Don't worry." Nian narrowed his eyes. "If technology can't solve the problem, then use physical means." He suddenly pressed his palm down from the bridge. Crack! The bridge deck gave way completely, leaving a huge hole. The water from the lake below rushed outward in a frenzy. Cracks spread outward like spider webs. This was a vibration power far greater than before. The recoil caused even Nian, a man of steel, to feel a flicker of pain. The shockwaves, condensed like physical objects, spread outward, converging upwards into a single point. The three aircraft carriers, activated from the factory beneath SHIELD headquarters, were about to take flight. New York. Brooklyn, a hidden basement beneath a bridge. The chandelier and IV bottles nearby trembled slightly. A bandaged, one-eyed black man lying on a bed opened his eyes. Seeing this, a short-haired woman dressed as an agent beside him excitedly stepped forward. "Director, are you awake?" "Hill, what's going on? What's shaking?" Nick Fury asked weakly after waking up. "I don't know. But the source of the tremors seems to be at SHIELD headquarters," Agent Hill replied solemnly. "Could it be her?" Nick Fury muttered, a flicker of worry in his eyes. The border between New York and New Jersey. Captain America and Black Widow, having just returned to New York, gazed through the windshield in shock at the white light rising above the city. "Are we too late again?" New York, Queens, a small apartment. "Peter, go to bed early." "Okay, Aunt May," the boy called out to the hallway outside the door, then stared blankly out the window. 3 white circles of light appeared in the night sky beyond the city, like dazzling stars curling upward, then quickly, amidst the trembling and roaring of the earth, disintegrated into a fireball or extinguished blackness and fell downward, as if the earth had extinguished the stars and the sun in its palm. Chapter 206 The End of Aegis. Boom. The entire city island still roared with fury. Thousands of SHIELD agents, intelligence officers, and workers, unharmed by the shockwave, fled panicked from the SHIELD complex and underground factories to the open air. Looking up, they saw 3 shattered aircraft carriers, blazing like tiny suns in the night sky. They disintegrated one after another from the crimson sky and plunged into the island's vast lake, stirring up the water more than 10 meters high. This night was destined to be recorded in SHIELD history, the night of the greatest purge and upheaval since its founding during World War II. The earth roared, the sky burned. SHIELD shattered, the aircraft carriers destroyed. The SHIELD personnel who witnessed this scene firsthand would vividly remember the shock of tonight, even 10 or 50 years from now. At this moment, on the only bridge leading from the outside city to SHIELD headquarters, Nian exhaled a breath of hot air from his chest, retracted his palms, and slowly stood upright. The bridge, reinforced to wartime standards, was now covered in cracks of varying sizes, from the deck to the bridge itself, and even the lower pillars. The internal steel had twisted and shattered, teetering on the brink of collapse under the surging lake water. "So, it's solved." Sky, holding the little orange cat, watched, dazed, as the last burning aircraft carrier parts fell into the dark, boundless lake in the distance. Sky had considered this incredibly difficult and intractable incident, yet the young man had resolved it in just 10 minutes. This is the only way to deal with the decaying SHIELD, destroy and rebuild. As for the remaining Hydra remnants outside SHIELD headquarters, in other branches and around the world, you'll have to slowly hunt them down and deal with them. Nian's body swayed, the continuous, high-intensity use of shockwaves making even him feel slightly dizzy. Sky hurried forward, offering a steady hand. Nian breathed a sigh of relief, gazing at the devastated and utterly shattered SHIELD headquarters before him. Don't underestimate his handling. In reality, without the ability to fuse shockwaves with his own, enabling precise long-range mass strikes, coupled with the intelligence gathered by the AI Alice, handling this incident would have been far more challenging. Of course, this also illustrates that in the face of absolute power, strategy and calculation are laughable. Hydra is ultimately just a bunch of rats and cockroaches hiding in the sewers of the world, not on the other side. Some transcended simply find them disgusting and don't bother to dirty their shoes to step on them, yet Hydra still believes they can destroy the world and revolutionize the world. Nian assured him that even if he allowed the 3 aircraft carriers to take flight, Hydra's inside plan would be impossible to implement. They would be shut down or exiled into outer space at any moment. However, Nian had his own considerations when using shockwaves to eliminate the 3 aircraft carriers. I have done what I should do. And what you have to do has just begun. Nian looked at the cold and beautiful female agent who was supporting him. I know. Sky took a deep breath. She was obviously aware of the situation. A firm look appeared in her beautiful eyes. In this incident, I intercepted the intelligence secrets about Hydra myself using hacking methods. The earthquake at the SHIELD headquarters just now was also the result of a sudden outburst of my ability. As for you, after visiting the SHIELD headquarters, you had already returned to Washington alone. I'm glad you understand. Nian nodded and pondered. After this incident, your name will probably become a nightmare for SHIELD, and the top management in various forces will also put pressure on you. However, once you get through this, the credit for clearing out Hydra and stopping the Insight project will all fall on you. By then, your prestige in SHIELD will reach a level that no one can match. In the future, if SHIELD is reorganized or another new organization is created, you will be the strongest contender for the position of director. This is your disaster, but also your opportunity. Everything else can only be borne by yourself. I will give you a list of Hydra personnel, but that's all. Nian's words were incredibly direct and straightforward. The moment Sky decided to let him take action, he must have realized what was happening. I know what to do next. Sky's face remained perfectly calm. She released Nian's hand and handed the little emperor back to the boy. Go ahead. Many people will be here soon. Okay, bye. Nian nodded. He carried the little orange cat and turned to walk back toward the bridge leading to the city beyond, leaving Agent Sky standing alone on the bridge. As Nian was about to leave the bridge, Sky's voice suddenly trembled from behind him. Nian, if I ask you for help again in the future, will you still help me? Nian didn't pause as the boy and cat left the bridge and disappeared into the darkness outside. He simply uttered, "Isn't that nonsense? We're all in cahoots." Thanks, Nian. Sky's pretty face couldn't help but smile, but then her expression shifted back to a cold, indifferent expression. She suddenly clenched her fists, and a powerful shockwave, though not as powerful as Nian's before, still far surpassed her previous power. Buzz! A powerful shockwave, emanating from Sky's center, completely shattered the already crumbling bridge, reaching the city 1,000 meters away. She coughed up a mouthful of blood, and the reverberation of crimson blood splattered across her exposed body. Her graceful form plummeted with a rumbling sound of the collapsing bridge, plunging into the dark, cold lake below. There was a loud splash. Nearby, someone seemed to jump into the water. Monday morning. The sun was shining, another peaceful and beautiful day. Washington, High School. Spring had already arrived, and the campus was lush with green grass and flourishing foliage. School was approaching. Many high school students were walking back and forth in the corridors. The LCD screen in the main hall, on the first floor of the teaching building, began to broadcast yesterday's morning news. At 8:10 last night, a 5.8 magnitude earthquake occurred in the area near Brooklyn, New York. Fortunately, most of the areas centered on the earthquake were factories, and no one was at work when the earthquake occurred, so there were no casualties. Some local people claimed that they saw 3 white lights in the sky at night, which appeared along with the earthquake. It was suspected to be a second attack by alien forces. Many wealthy people fled New York overnight. The authorities and the mayor have refuted this rumor. 2 beautiful girls followed a young man into the teaching building. The lazy black-haired boy raised his head to glance at the screen that was broadcasting the news, but quickly looked away without interest, covered his mouth with his hand and yawned sleepily. "Senior, you're so sleepy. What were you doing last night? Did you go to your house? Kara leaned closer to Gwen curiously and whispered a teasing warning in her ear. Senior, we made a promise. You can't cheat. Kara, what are you talking about? No way. Gwen's cheeks flushed red as she spat, then snorted and looked at Nian. Why are you looking at me? Nian glanced at the two of them curiously. Besides, when did their relationship become so good? What did they agree on? Chapter 207, Future Years, Anti-Peers. Nian. We. Gwen was about to say something to Nian when the news on the television in the teaching building jumped, drawing Nian's attention. Reports say a mysterious British billionaire has acquired Drake Bio in New York. Ever since the death of biological scientist Drake has been bankrupt. It's hard to imagine anyone taking on such a mess. Drake Bio has changed its name to Future Chronicle, seemingly aiming to create cutting-edge technological products. Even more surprising is that on Future Chronicle's first day, Tony Stark's secretary, Pepper Potts, approached them, asking for a partnership. Not only that, reporters also spotted Wayne Industries' products manager outside Future Chronicle. In the hallways and corridors of the teaching building, students were also captivated by the news, their eyes filled with wonder and amazement. Stark Industries is one of the world's leading companies, particularly in the fields of technology and intelligence. Only Wayne Industries can rival it. It's the future workplace many have always dreamed of. In other words, the salary is incredible, who wouldn't want to join? As for Wayne Industries, it's actually part of the Wayne Corporation, a giant, established corporation in Gotham City. You could say, joining the Wayne Corporation means you'll never have to worry about anything in your life. Employee expenses, childbirth, education, retirement, and everything else are all covered by Gotham's major industries. If you're looking to develop in Gotham City, then the Wayne Corporation is a perfect choice. And the newly established Future Chronicle, favored by both Stark Industries and Wayne Industries, must have something special going for it. So, this news, like the Future Chronicle promotional video, went viral. Seeing that the students and teachers at the school were all discussing the Future Chronicle, Nian said, "Wait, I'm going to the restroom." He said to Gwen and Kara, then hurried to the campus restroom. He entered a private bathroom. Nian put on his headphones, pulled out his phone, and whispered, "Alice, what's going on with the collaboration between Stark Industries and Wayne Group? Also, Drake Bio, why do I feel a little familiar with it?" Nian had left all responsibility for the creation and operation of Future Chronicle to the AI Alice, and he had only provided a general concept and ideas. So even he was a little confused by the news just now. What happened? Master, didn't you ask me to acquire a company a few days ago? The owner of Drake Bio died in a spacecraft accident a few months ago, leaving the company under his name essentially in ruins. Its industrial base is first-rate, and at its peak, it could have independently built spacecraft. Overall, it's the best choice for us to acquire. Listening to Alice's pleasant and fluent words, Nian gradually recalled. Died in a spacecraft accident? Wasn't that the person who was parasitized and controlled by the last alien symbiote, and later forced onto the spacecraft by the first 3 and 1 black kitten? I never expected Drake Bio turned up in my hands. What a coincidence. Wait a minute. Given Drake Bio's current conditions, would tens of millions be enough to acquire it? Even if Nian didn't understand the industry, he knew that even a top-tier company like Drake Bio, even if it wasn't doing well, wouldn't be acquired for tens of millions of dollars. I'm not finished yet, Alice continued. When we acquired Drake Bio, I shared some information about some of our technological products with Stark Industries and Wayne Industries. They expressed interest that same day, and that's how we began collaborating. I see, Nian pondered, then asked, what products are they interested in? Stark Industries wants to collaborate with us on nanometal manufacturing. Wayne Industries wants to collaborate on researching universal translators, Alice said. Nian nodded. After seeing the metal spider armor from the parallel universe, he knew that nanometal would be the material Iron Man's future armor would be made of. Just think about it. Would you rather carry a steel suitcase and transform every day, or just grab a pair of lightweight, tiny glasses? Nanometal can also automatically deform and conform to the body. So, nanometal is indeed quite attractive to them. As for Wayne Industries, the cosmic translator? Nian blinked, casually pulling out an item from the devouring dimension. Unexpectedly, it would attract the attention of Wayne Industries, and even the Batman behind it. The universe. Translation. Nian suddenly remembered. Superman Carl had once told him that he might need his abilities as a backup in the future. It seemed the Justice League had been planning something. However, Aunt Diana had temporarily withdrawn from the Justice League, so the League's affairs had little to do with him. Alice continued, thanks to the collaboration between Nanometal and the Cosmic Translator, I received a huge advance payment, which allowed me to acquire the entire Drake Bio Company, including its industrial and fixed assets. Since the owner was busy over the weekend, I didn't inform you in advance. It's okay, you'll run it perfectly, Nian assured. Nanometal. Even if he didn't collaborate with Stark Industries, Tony Stark, with his abilities, could develop it independently in a few years. As for the Cosmic Translator, consider it just some assistance to the Justice League. What they're planning now is surely terrifying and dangerous enough. Besides Nanometal and the Cosmic Translator, Spider-Man's legacy holds a wealth of cutting-edge technology, and the metaverse holds an endless array of alien artifacts. So, how much am I worth now? Nian suddenly remembered something both important and unimportant. Alice quickly said, there's not much in circulation, only a few $1 billion. Currently, most of the funds have been spent on acquisitions, leaving a conservative estimate of $50 billion in fixed assets. Nian stroked his chin, sighing inwardly. Cutting-edge technology is truly valuable. Think about how Aunt Diana worked for nearly 100 years, yet only had $1 billion in savings, even though she worked to integrate into human society. So, working is out of the question, never in this lifetime. All I can do is support the AI for free and make a living. Hajao. A law firm in Washington. A tall woman in a shirt and uniform, her features, appearance, and even her temperament impeccable, suddenly sneezed softly. In that moment, her exquisitely beautiful face seemed a little naive and adorable. It was a pity that Nian didn't see this scene, otherwise he would have felt that he had lost $50 billion. The female secretary passing by the office door heard the sound and said in astonishment, Diana. I'm sorry, no offense, but you actually sneezed. Well, this is really surprising. After all, in our opinion, you never get sick. I just caught a cold last night. The dark-haired woman smiled slightly, responding elegantly and calmly. For some reason, she suddenly wanted to teach her child a lesson. Monthly tickets, 250. Chapter 208, Each One's Future, Infinity Stones. Nian came out of the restroom. The bell for class rang outside, and the students still in the hallway of the teaching building couldn't help but quicken their pace. Among them was a beautiful figure. Deputy Instructor, Felicia. Nian and her looked at each other from a distance, his eyes instinctively falling on the fair and delicate collarbone where the white shirt was buttoned tightly. Downwards, the equally tightly buttoned white shirt outlined the beautiful curves. Although Nian quickly looked away, Felicia, as sharp as a cat, still noticed it. Her beautiful eyes were so cold that they seemed to flash with a faint light. She hugged the documents tightly with both hands to block the place that seemed to be slightly painful, and walked past Nian in black high heels. Teacher, do you need help? Nian blinked and asked proactively. No need. Nian, you should hurry back to class. Felicia paused, her beautiful eyes unflinching. She smiled at Nian and said softly, by the way, even though it's spring, it's still a bit chilly. It's best to wear long sleeves when going out. Like the older sister next door, she brought a warm, spring-like warmth to everyone. Okay, thank you, teacher. Nian smiled. The two of them seemed harmonious and beautiful. If it weren't for the threats and counter-threats, they might have truly been a pair of teacher and student with a good relationship. He returned to the classroom alone. Nian sighed. If Felicia had reacted with disgust or indifference to his greeting, that would have been fine, that would have been the normal reaction. Instead, she acted so gentle and caring. He'd provoked a cat. It looked like he'd have trouble finding peace in school from now on. After class, Gwen took Nian to the rooftop of the teaching building and brought up something she'd wanted to say but hadn't. You joined the Avengers. Nian looked at the short-haired girl in surprise. It's not really joining. Gwen waved her hands quickly and explained, I just reached a certain cooperation with Mr. Iron Man Stark. As the heroic Spider-Woman, I will hone my skills in the Avengers. After I go to college or graduate from university, I still want to stay in Washington. After all, that's what we said. We studied together from elementary school to college, and after graduation, we will work and live together. Speaking of this, Gwen's face flushed red. She looked at the silent Nian and whispered, Nian, you're not angry, are you? Of course not. Nian shook his head and patted Gwen's head. Being a superhero and punishing evil, isn't that the dream you've always dreamed of? Training with the Avengers is indeed a good choice, and you can opt out of the internship at any time. Yes. Actually, I'm just officially interning at Stark Industries, using the Avengers to hone my skills. When my cousin reaches a certain age and wants to pursue a superhero career, I'll have him take my place. Gwen seemed to finally breathe a sigh of relief. She grasped Nian's hand and gently rubbed it against her cheek. Nian, thank you for supporting me. Nian looked at Gwen, whose face was as rosy as an apple, and couldn't help but run his fingers down her smooth face. As if she knew what Nian was up to, Gwen, though still shy in school, closed her eyes with a fluttering eyelash. Their faces moved closer. But then, footsteps echoed from the entrance to the teaching building's rooftop, and a figure emerged, her skirt and golden hair swaying. Gwen gasped, taking a few steps back in shock, her coat and uniform swaying violently like a startled rabbit. Nian, as if he knew who it was, also gave a start. Then, like a stream of light, the slender figure, leaving an afterimage, leaped into his arms at lightning speed, her white gold hair shimmering and spreading in the bright sunlight. Kara's eyes fluttered adorably and cunningly, her arms clasping Nian's neck, clinging to him like a teddy bear. Senior, I'm also interning in Gotham. I'll become even stronger, surpassing my cousin sooner or later, so could you offer some practical encouragement? Kara. 2 spider threads descended upon the platinum-haired girl, attempting to pull her away from Nian, but ended up dragging Nian along with her. The 2 beautiful girls and the young man tumbled into a tight ball, entangled in the white spider threads, toppling to the ground. The quarrel, the fight, and the helpless attempts to dissuade each other continued, as curses and laughter echoed over the high school, filled with the air of youthful exuberance. Afternoon. After school, Nian said goodbye to Gwen and Kara separately and returned to his residential complex. He was surprised by Gwen and Kara's choices, yet felt it was natural. Both possessed the ability and dream of becoming superheroes. Now, with the help of the Avengers and the Justice League, respectively, for training and internship, they were sure they would soon shine. Adolescence is the perfect time to pursue dreams. Everyone has a future to strive for. Only Nian wanted to return home and lie down comfortably. Precisely because he had experienced so many extraordinary events, he had even less desire to become a superhero. In the future, he simply wanted to protect the things around him. He wanted his aunt to wear comfortable, soft dresses instead of her battle-hardened magical suit. Such a peaceful and relaxing daily life was the future Nian desired. Despite this, he had already ventured deeper into the world's extraordinary realm, deeper than many heroes and alliances. Returning to his floor, Nian took out his key to open the door, but in an instant, his spider sense detected someone inside. This feeling wasn't Aunt Diana, nor was it Wanda. Nian, be careful. Guan Luo's thoughts echoed in his mind, carrying an unprecedented sense of fear. Master, enemy attack. In the main hall, all the electronic devices flashed red alarms. At the same time, Nian, opening the door, saw someone standing next to him in his living room. The Devourer's young cub, Xiao Wang, was furred to the bone. Its cat-like eyes, with vertical pupils, glared coldly at the other creature. Its orange tail shone with a sinister dark hue, and the venom within it revived. Why are you here? Nian was stunned for a moment, then waved his hand. It's all right, all clear. We're one of them. Nian then said to the orange cat on the ground, Xiao Wang, you can't beat her. Didn't you try last time? The dark hue receded from Xiao Wang's body like a tide, returning to its full orange color. He shook his head dejectedly. That's right. Standing in his living room now was none other than the Ancient One. The bald woman's face was as calm as ever, but this time she wore a pure black monk's robe, giving her a non-evil look. She seemed bathed in a holy light, devoid of any trace of decay. We're one of them, you really know how to talk. The Ancient One stood with his hands behind his back, his face expressionless as he looked at the young man. You're Wanda's magic teacher, so you're one of us, Nian demanded confidently. The Ancient One was silent for a moment, his eyes flickering before he spoke calmly. I heard from Wanda that you wanted to see me about something. Yes, I do. Recalling his earlier conversation with Wanda, Nian, without even changing into slippers, went straight into his room. He quickly pulled out two iron-plated objects, a sphere and a Rubik's Cube, from the cabinet under his bed and his computer desk. Seeing Nian place the objects so casually, the Ancient One, standing outside the living room, was speechless. Anyone else might have complained. "Master, I'd like you to help me identify these two items." Nian approached the Ancient One, sphere in one hand and Rubik's Cube in the other. To him, the Ancient One was trustworthy, and not just because he was Wanda's teacher. The Ancient One knew of his multiple modes and was powerful enough as Earth's guardian. The last time the Trinity went out of control, it was the Ancient One who intervened to save the day. Putting aside the fact that if they had wanted to, they would have already obtained the two items in his possession. And there was something else. Nian felt a strange familiarity with the Ancient One. The Ancient One lowered his gaze, glanced at the item in his hand, then drew a circle to the side, opening a portal. Sparks swirled in the center of the living room. "Come with me." The Ancient One stepped into the portal. Nian followed closely. After crossing the portal, Nian discovered that they had arrived not in a magical sanctuary, but in a modern, ordinary city block. "Is this New York City?" Nian looked up and could see the iconic skyscrapers of downtown in the distance. This was probably on the edge of New York's downtown, a less bustling area. Golden sunlight bathed the quiet, orderly western streets. Master Ancient One walked directly to the street, where a church-like building stood, 5 or 6 stories tall, with a large, vintage clock on the top floor 177A Bleecker Street. Master Ancient One led Nian into the church. The light inside was dim, and everything was retro and mysterious. Robed monks hurried down the wooden steps to greet him. "Greetings to the Supreme Master." He glanced at the young man standing next to the Ancient One in surprise, having never expected the Supreme Master to bring an ordinary person into this place, a child at that. This was the first time in decades. "This is the New York Sanctuary, one of the 3 great sanctuaries. This is Master Daniel, the guardian of the New York Sanctuary," Master Ancient One introduced to Nian. "Good afternoon, Mr. Daniel," Nian said politely. "Hello, little friend," Daniel responded quickly, curiously asking, "Master Supreme, is he our future junior apprentice?" Master Ancient One didn't respond, instead ordering, "You go and train for a while. I'll be watching over the New York Sanctuary." "Yes, Master Supreme." Daniel nodded quickly. He didn't ask any more questions. He bowed again, quickly opened a portal, and disappeared into the sanctuary. Now, the vast New York Sanctuary was completely silent. Master Ancient One formed an unknown seal with his palms, and the space suddenly rippled like glass, then quickly merged into the calmness of the space again. "Take that out first." Master Ancient One gestured towards the Rubik's Cube in Nian's hand. Nian immediately handed over the Rubik's Cube in his right hand. The Ancient One conjured several magical golden threads that wrapped around the iron-plated Rubik's Cube. The fiery red threads continuously shed sparks, melting the iron. With beams of blue light, the gilded Rubik's Cube returned to its original form, a perfect cube, radiating a dazzling blue light. Its inner clarity and mystery, imbued with an unknown and powerful energy. The crimson golden threads locked onto the blue Rubik's Cube. "How much do you know about it?" the Ancient One asked, glancing at Nian from the Rubik's Cube. Nian shrugged and said bluntly, "I know this thing was found by the Red Skull, the leader of Hydra, from a pyramid tomb during World War II. They called it the Cosmic Cube, and Hydra used it to mass-produce infinite energy. After World War II, the cube has been under the control of SHIELD, who have been secretly studying it. Iron Man's father used it to discover new elements, and for this he was targeted by Hydra. More than a decade ago, someone used it to create a lightspeed engine, which indirectly led to the death of a female airman, Carol Danvers. Then a few months ago, the alien false god Loki used it to open a space portal, connecting to the other side of the universe, and causing the Battle of New York. This was all the information Nian obtained from Hydra last night. The Cosmic Cube has always been a hidden presence throughout the history of human technology. Just like the Mother Box of Apocalypse. Yet, it was completely different from the Mother Box. The Cosmic Cube, many know only the surface of it. The Ancient One shook her head slightly. With a squeeze of her hands, the Martian gold threads tightened, and the Cosmic Cube began to crack. Nian's eyes widened in shock. The Cosmic Cube's outer shell shattered, dissipating into blue energy, revealing a hidden core within. A thumb-sized gem. More precisely, a sapphire. The gem glowed with a brilliant blue light, its power unfathomable, held in mid-air by the Martian gold threads. The Ancient One narrated softly, at the dawn of the universe, the world was in chaos. The Big Bang created 6 elemental crystals, which roamed the newborn universe. These are the Infinity Stones. Each Infinity Stone controls a specific property. Sapphire, space; ruby, reality; topaz, mind; amethyst, power; orange, soul; and emerald, time. As the Ancient One explained, he continued to cast a spell, conjuring a golden thread of Mars that wrapped around the sphere in Nian's left hand. The metal of the sphere continued to melt, revealing its indelible core, a gemstone in its own right. However, this one was now yellow, equally dazzling and breathtaking. So that's how it is. So, these two are the Space Stone and the Mind Stone, and the Tesseract and the Mind Staff are merely their carriers. A flash of realization crossed Nian's eyes, and he suddenly asked excitedly, "Master, could gathering all 6 Infinity Stones grant any wish? Or perhaps summon a dragon or something?" A wish? A dragon? The Ancient One was stunned for a moment, then shook his head. Each Infinity Stone, each possessing distinct properties, would be fought over by different civilizations throughout the universe, ultimately controlled by the stone's power, leading to the destruction of civilizations and the fall of planets. Let alone gathering all 6 Infinity Stones, whose power is powerful enough to destroy half the universe. Very well then. Nian felt deeply disappointed, and even looking at the stones again, he wasn't as excited as before. His excitement had been for nothing. "Master, do you want the stones? If so, I'll give you both," Nian said flatly. The Ancient One. Nian's thoughts were pure. He had originally taken the Tesseract and the Mind Staff from the Battle of New York to prevent them from causing further damage. Although he now understood the importance and properties of the gems, he also knew that the Infinity Stones were difficult to control and would ultimately directly or indirectly destroy their users. Therefore, the Infinity Stones were a hot potato for Nian. It would be better to hand them over to the Ancient One, Earth's supreme sorcerer, for safekeeping to avoid any trouble. The Ancient One responded solemnly, "Since you have obtained the Infinity Stones, it means that the stones have chosen you. You will be considered the guardian of the stones from now on. You can no longer place the Infinity Stones casually, they must be properly kept." She pulled a silver pendant necklace from the sleeve of her black robe. Under the strange spell she cast, the metal pendant opened like a mechanism, revealing an empty groove inside. The gold wire pulled the Space Stone into place. Click! Exclamation mark. The metal pendant closed, sealing the Space Stone inside, preventing the blue light from escaping. The Ancient One extended a finger and pointed. The silver metal necklace floated forward and was placed around the boy's neck. Nian. Chapter 209, Nian's Gemstone Magical Instrument, Knowing the Past. New York Sanctuary. A faint beam of light streamed through the gap in the window into the empty and silent interior of the church. Not even a speck of dust hung in the air, the strange, ancient Western architecture and interiors seemingly unchanged for centuries. First floor main hall. Nian looked down at the silver metal necklace around his neck, his eyes twitching slightly. He felt that the Ancient One was even more bothered than he was, so he was using this method to shirk responsibility. He really didn't want to be the guardian of the gem. After all, in most storybooks, that role was typically targeted by the villain. The Ancient One said, "I've sealed the space gem with a magical artifact and added a layer of magical embellishment to make it look more like an ordinary silver necklace. You can wear it like this without anyone noticing. How can I not wear this gem necklace?" Nian fiddled with the pendant, a look of worry on his face. The Ancient One didn't know what to say. Cosmic Cube, Space Gem. If it were released into the outside world, it would cause untold turmoil. It was a priceless treasure coveted by countless civilizations throughout the universe. Only the young man at that moment felt disgusted, wanting to throw it away. As if worried that Nian would carelessly toss the gem into his home closet, the Ancient One quickly said, "The magical necklace has become the carrier of the space gem. While it primarily serves as a confinement seal, it also acquires the elemental properties of space. Wearing it, even an ordinary person can perform a degree of special magic." The Ancient One gestured to Nian, "Reach out and grasp the magical pendant." Nian tried. As his hand grasped the necklace's cool metal pendant, a subtle, Mystical blue light emanated from between his fingers. Compared to the previous destructive energy, this energy was noticeably gentler. A sense of wonder washed over Nian. This is. Surprise crossed Nian's eyes. Master Ancient One explained, this magic necklace will record the places you have been to. The moment you hold it, no matter where you are, it can allow you to cross space and reach the point that has been recorded. No distance limit. Yes, there is no distance limit. Master Ancient One nodded slightly. Even if you are tens of millions of light years away, on the other side of the end of the starry sky, as long as you hold it, you can directly cross. However, it can only be used 3 times a day. Isn't the function of this magic necklace to TP? Nian's mind moved, and he asked curiously, what if I am in other dimensions? Master Ancient One looked at him silently, and said calmly, you can try. Forget it. Nian shrugged. He had no intention of trying it at all. He stuffed the necklace pendant into his clothes, sighed and said, then I will wear it reluctantly. As for the other gem. The Ancient One's deep gaze fell upon the mind gem, still exposed to the air, glowing with a hazy yellow light. I will also craft it into a magical instrument to confine and conceal the gem's power. However, only one person may wield one magical instrument, otherwise the 2 gems will revitalize through their continued resonance. You may choose a sufficiently powerful guardian of the gem and bestow it upon her. Until then, the Ancient One paused, then asked Nian, can you lend me this gem for a while? Borrow the gem. Nian was puzzled. He had originally intended to give the gem directly to the Ancient One for safekeeping, but the Ancient One refused, instead refusing to accept it. Now, he was borrowing it in another way? And it was the mind gem again. In Nian's opinion, a spatial gem would surely have more uses than the mind gem, right? After all, time is supreme, space is king. Ahem, I'm getting off topic. Take it if you want, Nian said readily. The Ancient One raised his hand, concealing the mind stone within the mirrored space. He calmly said, since I've borrowed something from you, I must exchange it in kind. You can choose any magical artifact from the New York Sanctuary as payment for borrowing the gem. Nian thought for a moment and agreed. Then I'll be more than welcome. What is this? Nian's attention was drawn to a tripod-like object next to the wooden staircase in the main hall on the first floor. He placed his hands on the tripod and thrust his head into the hollow interior. The darkness was indistinct. This is the cauldron of all things, the Ancient One said. It allows the user to see past events across all timelines. Through this artifact, the mage's sanctuary understands the past of the present world, allowing them to make the most accurate choices and actions for its future. Being able to see the past of this world. Nian's eyes widened in surprise. This was the ultimate encyclopedia of the past. This also revealed the mage's sanctuary's heritage and capabilities. If they so desired, they could even know your past life in detail. The Ancient One said, the cauldron of all things can only be used by the guardians of the Sanctuary of New York. It is the utmost importance for the Sanctuary of Mage to observe and protect the world. You may choose any other artifact in the Sanctuary of New York except this one. Mage. Nian suddenly remembered something important and said quickly with a serious expression, help me use this artifact to observe what happened in a certain place during the Battle of New York a few months ago. I can forego choosing an artifact. A flicker of surprise flashed in the Ancient One's eyes, and he quickly said, you intend to use the cauldron of all things to locate the whereabouts of a boy named Pietro, right? Indeed, Nian nodded. Last time, even though the AI Alice had intercepted some Hydra intelligence from Dr. Zola, even digging up the Hydra personnel list, she still had no confidential information on Pietro. This showed how important Hydra regarded Pietro. Dr. Zola's final self-destruct program had also destroyed much of the information along with it. The clues were temporarily lost. Only now did Nian realize that the Ancient One possessed a divine artifact like the cauldron of all things. If science couldn't do it, why not use metaphysics? The Ancient One was silent for a moment, then shook his head. I can't do that. Why? Nian, stunned, stared at the Ancient One and hurriedly said, can't the cauldron of all things see past events in all timelines? You said so. The Ancient One's expression remained unchanged. As she cast a spell on the cauldron of all things, she calmly replied, because 2 weeks ago, Wanda asked me to use the cauldron of all things to find her brother's whereabouts. Above the cauldron of all things, a three-dimensional scene, like a projection, appeared. Light and shadow intertwined to depict a single-family house and a boy and girl returning home from school. The boy wore goggles, had short silver hair, and was covered in dust. The girl wore a dress, her crimson hair falling over her backpack, looking well-behaved and elegant. Nian recognized it instantly. That house was Wanda's home, before it was destroyed by alien artillery fire during the Battle of New York. That girl and boy are twins, Wanda and Pietro. This is the timeline 3 months ago. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 210 Nian's second magical weapon. Pietro, were you running again with your classmates? Of course I'll be the fastest man in the world someday. You lost your allowance to someone else, so don't ask me for it. Wanda, I'll just call you sister, okay? The rosy-faced girl and the silver-haired boy, returning home, chatted at the doorway, but once inside the house, they both tactfully shut up. Inside, a middle-aged man wearing glasses sat in the living room, reading a newspaper, while a middle-aged woman paced in and out of the kitchen, brimming with the aroma of food. You're back? Dinner's almost ready. Go wash your hands, the middle-aged woman beamed. Okay. The twins responded in unison. A scene of a happy family of 4 materialized on the cauldron of all things. The scene was incredibly detailed and realistic, not at all like a video. Nian knew it. It was a real scene from a past timeline, a real-life scene in a New York City family. He also knew that soon, this ordinary, peaceful family would be struck by a calamity. Master Ancient One clasped his hands in a sigil. Atop the cauldron of all things, the conjured images of the past accelerated, as if fast-forwarding a video at 10 or 100 times the speed. The sun set, the moon rose. Night dissipated, dawn revived. Horizontal ellipsis. Nian and Ancient One, observing the family of 4 from a god's perspective, saw the events unfolding as if they were ordinary, everyday family events. And precisely because of this, Nian felt a pang of sadness. That adorable, crimson-haired girl, still unaware of the turning point in her life. As the scene rapidly switched to the past, pause. Nian called out to Master Ancient One, as if realizing something. Master Ancient One immediately stopped the conjured images and even stepped back a bit. Nian's heart trembled slightly. But in a past scene, in an alleyway not far from Wanda's house, a familiar, petite figure appeared. Long, dark green hair cascaded carelessly over her slender shoulders, her delicate face thickly stained with smoke. A delicate, youthful girl leaned alone against a streetlight, her arms folded across her chest, a look of unbridled pride. The mere sight of her frightened the nearby hooligans into fleeing. It was as if everyone feared her. Only when Nian saw the green-haired girl did his lips curl upward, his eyes filled with a wave of heartache and affection. Dusk descended, and night fell. The green-haired girl, proudly leaning against the alley corner, watched the Wanda Pietro twins return home. Only when the nearby street lights and distant houses lit up did she shrug nonchalantly and turn away, her small, resolute figure fading into the city night. Nian suddenly wanted to pat the girl's head, but he was sure she'd scold him. He also wanted to hug her, but he was sure she'd bite him. But, even if he was scolded or bitten, he would still pat her head and hug her. Isn't that my responsibility? Unfortunately, Nian had no idea where the boss was, and couldn't reach him by phone. The jellyfish fragments sent by Guan Luo confirmed that he had long since disbanded his gang and left New York City. Master Ancient One, continue, Nian said to the Ancient One beside him, gathering his thoughts. But the Ancient One shook his head and said, almost nothing. Huh? Nian was stunned, then quickly understood what the Ancient One meant by nothing. The cauldron of all things, which had been displaying images of a family of 4 from the past, suddenly blurred and became indistinct. What happened? Nian asked in surprise. The Ancient One said, after a certain point in the past, the cauldron of all things can no longer observe the twins' past. What happened then is known only to them. Is this common? Nian frowned. The Ancient One waved his hand to dispel the illusion, responding, it's uncommon, just an isolated case. But the universe is filled with mysteries, and accidents aren't surprising. Even I find many things incomprehensible. As the Supreme Mage, she was surprisingly open-minded. She wasn't the stubborn type who insisted on seeing through or tracing the source, but rather someone who leaned towards letting go. Nian pondered for a moment, then continued, "When did it begin?" The Ancient One replied bluntly, "The night before the Battle of New York." The night before the Battle of New York. Nian instinctively recalled, then froze. He remembered. At that time. New York Sanctuary, second floor. Led by the Ancient One, Nian ascended the wooden steps. The upper floor resembled a retro, quirky museum, its collection displayed individually in glass cases. A round window on one side let in a little light, and there were wall lights in the hallway, but the interior remained dim. Nian glanced curiously around the hallway. What a sight! There were also items like boots and a belt inside. While seemingly ordinary, they were stored separately in the sanctuary's glass case, so they weren't any ordinary, exotic items. Wait! Master Ancient One, is that a pot? Or a torch? Nian blinked, pointing to a glass case in a corner. Is that also a magical weapon? With his hands behind his back, the Ancient One explained, that's called the Cosmic Cauldron. Born from the endless mists of time, combined with the power of the soul, it can lead us to explore the eternal and unchanging mysterious nature of the universe. What about this? Nian spotted another longsword, gleaming with a cold light, its entire white sleekness radiating a faint power. That's the dragon-tooth sword, the Ancient One said with a smile, a touch of nostalgia. It's a magical weapon made from the teeth of a giant dragon from another dimension. It's indestructible. Okay, Nian spread his hands. He finally understood. No matter what world, a mage will never give up the dream of close combat. What about this belt? Nian asked casually. Like your gem artifact, it possesses special properties, capable of storing objects of any size. It has the space of an entire city. Never mind. After listening to Ancient One's explanation, Nian immediately walked away, not even glancing at the belt artifact. It was nothing compared to the cat's mouth. Well, Little Emperor's devouring dimension was much more useful. Nian's eye fell on another artifact, a transparent crystal ball, nestled on a red cloth in a glass case, appearing mysterious and shimmering. This type of artifact perfectly matched his image of a wizard. Agamotto crystal ball. Ancient One approached the young man and patiently explained, it's a radar-like artifact. When a magical event occurs anywhere in the world, the Agamotto crystal ball will float and display the location of the event. Nian was a little disappointed. He had expected it to be a divination-type artifact, capable of foretelling the future. Where's this artifact? Nian glanced to the side. There was a crystal wand with demonic horns on both ends, a fitting image for a wizard. Wadham's wand. The Ancient One took a look and said, it can assist the mage in attacking with other elements. It's quite powerful. That sounds good. Nian thought that this magical weapon wasn't the best, but it was probably the most reliable. It could be considered alongside the dragon-tooth sword. If there weren't any more suitable magical weapons. What is that? Nian suddenly noticed something, his eyes lit up, and his attention was immediately drawn to the side. P.S. Do you have monthly tickets? Vote for more updates. Chapter 211 The choice of magical weapon is decided by you. In the New York Sanctuary, on the second floor of the main hall, a single glass case held a dark crimson cloak with a dark gold lining, aristocratic in style. At first glance, the material appeared fine. But here was something strange. The cloak had no built-in hanger, no hooks for hanging it, and yet it remained wrinkle-free. It seemed to float half-open in the air, its lower end not even touching the ground, remaining suspended in the center of the glass-framed counter. A dark-haired young man approached the counter, his brown eyes aglow, his gaze fixed on the cloak with curiosity and consideration. For about 3 seconds, the cloak, floating empty, silently spun a half-circle, as if hiding itself, revealing only its back. This cloak, could it be shy? Nian blinked and asked, Master Ancient One, what kind of magical artifact is this? The Ancient One stepped forward, hands behind her back. She gazed at the dark crimson cloak, her eyes a complex expression as she spoke. I've named it the Cloak of Magical Levitation. It's one of the oldest magical artifacts in the Sanctuary's collection. It existed before I created the Sanctuary. It was crafted by a supreme being of miraculous skill. Interesting. What functions does it have? Nian inquired. The Ancient One replied, it allows the user to fly. It possesses impressive physical and magical defenses, as well as the ability to remotely summon and transform. A defensive artifact? And these auxiliary abilities. Xinian's decision was immediate. From the outset, he hadn't chosen his own artifact solely based on his own perspective, but rather on Wanda's. After all, Wanda was the mage with the most magical powers, destined to use artifacts more often than he did. Therefore, despite his own iron frame, Xinian still preferred defensive artifacts, allowing Wanda to use them on a regular basis. Xinian took a deep breath and asked, "Master, can I choose it?" I said, "Except for the Cauldron of All Things, you can choose all the magic weapons in the New York Sanctuary. But, this magic weapon..." Master Guyi paused. She seemed to have thought of many things at this moment, and finally murmured with a complicated expression, "If you can get its approval, it doesn't matter if you take it away in advance." "Master, what do you mean?" Xinian turned around and looked at Master Guyi. Master Guyi said, "The magic cloak is a spiritual magic weapon with independent consciousness. If you want to use it, you can only get its approval first, otherwise it will be useless even if you take it away." "What should I do?" Xinian asked. "Approach it, touch it, and you'll know whether it recognizes you." The Ancient One said, "But I must warn you first, the Cloak of Magical Levitation can only be used correctly by a user with powerful magic power, unleashing its magical properties. Therefore, it generally only selects wielders with sufficient mana or exceptionally talented wizards. For centuries, no one has ever been recognized by it." "Master, your words strike me as a blow." Xinian's mouth twitched. He possessed no mana at all, and his wizarding talent was extremely poor. A spell that Wanda could master in a day or so would, according to the Ancient One, require him to practice diligently for 100 years. So, there's a high probability I won't be recognized by it. Xinian understood the Ancient One's meaning. "Let me be frank. The choice is yours, but your failure to gain the artifact's recognition is none of my business." The Ancient One was also straightforward. "Knowing all this, do you still want to try?" The Ancient One asked. "Give it a try. What if you succeed?" Xinian shrugged. The Ancient One waved his left hand, and with a snap, the glass case in front of Xinian vanished. Only the dark red cloak afloat remained, floating quietly in the air. Xinian quietly approached. The cloak had its back to him, and it didn't react at all. Xinian felt strangely nervous. He held his breath, carefully raised his right hand, and reached out for the cloak afloat. Just as his fingers were about to touch the cloak, the edge of the cloak suddenly twitched inward, narrowly avoiding the boy's hand. The boy, seemingly unconvinced, reached forward a few more times, but the cloak quickly dodged them. "Forget it," the boy sighed, shaking his head and spreading his hands, as if giving up. As if understanding his words, the cloak afloat visibly relaxed its taut fabric. At that moment, the black-haired boy suddenly lunged forward, hugging the cloak tightly. The cloak froze, then struggled violently, trying to break free from Xinian's grasp. The Ancient One was speechless as he watched the young man tumble to the floor, clutching the cloak. It was like an ancient artifact from the New York Sanctuary. Xinian realized the cloak's power surpassed his own in human form, and he slowly struggled free from his arms. Never mind, he wouldn't force it. With a sigh, Xinian loosened his grip, letting the cloak escape from his arms. As soon as it broke free, it soared to the ceiling of the second-floor main hall and vanished into obscurity. "All right, I give up," Xinian said, dusting himself off. At that moment, a strange sensation washed over him. He glanced toward a corner of the room. There was another glass frame table, holding something similarly red, but resembling a ribbon. "That's..." Xinian instinctively headed that way, but was stopped midway. He looked back. Wasn't that the cloak? The cloak, as if humane, used its edge to grab Xinian's hand, preventing him from moving forward. This. Even the Ancient One looked surprised. "Why? If I don't choose you, I can always choose someone else," Xinian said angrily. "Let go." He also lost his temper, ripping open his cloak and striding forward. The dark red magical cloak froze in place for a moment, then, with resolve, leaped forward, its inner cloak opening and wrapping around the boy's back, carrying him down to the first floor of the sanctuary. That's a bit too much?" The boy's voice rang with indignation. Watching the cloak and the boy disappear around the corner of the stairs, the Ancient One muttered softly to himself, "It recognizes him. As the portal formed by the rotation of the sparks appeared and disappeared, Nian appeared in the living room of his home, accompanied by a floating cloak. Nian glanced at the cloak and said, "This is my home. From now on, it will be your home too. Come in and see for yourself." At the boy's words, the dark red cloak swayed and actually flew into the room on its own. There are more and more strange things at home. Nian sighed inwardly when, behind him, the door opened. Someone had returned. Although he hadn't seen them yet, his spider sense told him who it was. This feeling. Without a second thought, Nian turned and hugged the figure who had just stepped through the doorway. Chapter 212 The Chaofin Family, Family Trip. Huh? The dark-haired woman, freshly returned home, was still wearing her work suit, her snow-white feet clad in a pair of high, fashionable heels. This demigod, nicknamed Wonder Woman, seemed a little bewildered by the young man's sudden embrace. But she quickly regained her composure. "Who bullied you?" Diana's thick, heroic brows instinctively rose, like the edge of a divine sword about to be unsheathed. Her flawless face was calm and cool, her beautiful eyes sparkling with wisdom like stars, and she exuded a reassuring and mellow aura of maturity. "Who could bully me?" Nian shook his head. He embraced the woman's slender waist, feeling the slenderness and suppleness unique to a god, and inhaling the subtle fragrance of violets that drifted naturally on her clothes. Nian's mood had remained unchanged since witnessing the past scenes transformed by the cauldron of all things. "I just wanted to hug you, no particular reason," Nian said, unreasonably yet matter-of-factly. He buried his face in his blazer. The thin, high-quality fabric against the white background was impervious to the scent and warmth of Aunt Diana. "So that's how it is." Diana's cold, beautiful face softened. Her earlier thoughts of scolding the child faded, and she couldn't help but reach out and touch the boy's hair, pulling him closer to her. Outside the living room, night had already enveloped the city, and the lights were just beginning to come on. The two figures seemed one in the night. Then, with a sound of light footsteps, a crimson-haired girl pushed open the door and entered. Seeing the two, one large and one small, standing in the doorway, her jewel-like eyes widened, and her delicate, doll-like face blushed. "Master, Miss Diana." I didn't see anything." Wanda turned frantically, her skirt swaying, and tried to escape. But a hand caught her just in time. "What are you talking about?" "Wanda, you're just in time." Nian smiled, reaching out and pulling. He pulled the Crimson Maid into his arms. Hey. The Crimson Maid Wanda completely shut down. One in each hand. One large, one small. Holding two tightly, she embraced them, a warmth far greater than two. Nian said firmly, "We are family. From now on, we will live together forever." Meow. A small orange cat chased the floating cloak, one in front and one behind, all the way from the balcony to the living room, causing chaos. Nian's mouth twitched, and he felt a warm atmosphere disappear. Late at night. After Nian fell asleep. Outside in the living room, the lights were on. The faint blush on Wanda's face hadn't completely faded. She glanced at the closed door and mustered the courage to speak to Diana, who was reading nearby. "Miss Diana. Today, Master Nian. Like a child, right?" Diana smiled knowingly and looked at Wanda. "Are you surprised?" "Yes," Wanda agreed, biting her lower lip. "Master, it's clear that it was the Master who saved me, but he acts like he needs me and treats me like family." "Master, that's too much? Before, he said I could choose to leave when I grow up. Now, how can I possibly leave him? This is too much?" Tears welled up in Wanda's eyes. She couldn't tell whether she felt wronged or happy. Diana said nothing. She closed her book and looked up at the moon on the balcony. She was the same in that respect. After we tamed each other, we could only live together forever. Once we separated, there was no meaning. Wanda. Diana turned back, looking at the faintly sobbing Wanda, and whispered, "Let's get ready this weekend. Let's go on a trip together. A family trip." Wanda was stunned for a moment, then quickly wiped her tears and happily replied, "Okay, Miss Diana, I'll get ready." A few days later. Saturday, noon. Paris, France, the world-famous city of romance. The Eiffel Tower stood elegantly and proudly in the city. Along the banks of the Seine, the lawns and shrubs in the park were neatly manicured, and the streets were filled with the artistic and romantic atmosphere of a typical European country. It was spring, and the breeze was gentle. It happened to be sunny today, and with some clouds, the outdoors was extremely comfortable, and many couples and families were out and about. On a picnic mat spread out on the lawn, Nian closed his eyes, completely relaxed, and lay flat on the grass, his nostrils filled with the natural fragrance of sunlight, earth, and blooming violets. Beneath his head, two long, tight, beautiful legs, in a sitting position, rested seamlessly on top of each other, a rare knee pillow. "Young master, open your mouth and have some fruit," a soft, girlish voice echoed beside him. Nian, nearly dozing off in comfort, cracked his eyes open and saw the rosy-haired girl's small hand, clad in a semi-transparent white silk glove, bringing a piece of fresh, peeled tangerine flesh to his mouth. The young man instinctively opened his mouth and nearly swallowed his tiny finger. "Wanda, you'll make him even lazier," the dark-haired woman warned. "It's okay." The Wanda girl shook her head, a gentle smile playing on her face. "Where am I?" Nian asked dazedly, savoring the sweetness of the tangerine. "Did you get confused from sleep?" The dark-haired woman reached forward, her long, crystalline fingers curled, and flicked his forehead. Nian clutched his forehead. It didn't hurt, but it was enough to remind him. Right. Today was the weekend off, and since Gwen and Carol were both away on internships, there was no fun to do. It just so happened that Aunt Diana suggested a long-awaited family trip. Nian, still half asleep in his room, was woken by Wanda, the Scarlet Maid. He drowsily changed and walked through a portal. Weekend trip, why Paris? Nian rubbed his eyes sleepily, his gaze passing from the two towering holy peaks to the iconic towers. Next to him, a phone lit up on the picnic mat, and a pleasant female voice uttered, "Master. According to the weather forecast and system statistics, today's weather and temperature in Paris are among the best of the year." Really? Nian, now much more awake, noticed that besides Wanda and Diana, on the picnic mat, which was also filled with food and fruit, there was a glass jar with a colorful starfish resting leisurely inside. Not far away, a small orange cat chased butterflies on the lawn, its tail glistening with a dark, liquid sheen. The dark red cloak floated to the side, as if it had escaped a disaster, and the fabric relaxed with a sigh of relief. Only then did Nian react. His current family members, Mistress Diana, the maid Wanda, the artificial intelligence Alice, the alien species Guan Luo, the metamorph emperor, the symbiote Venom, and the new member who joined a few days ago, the magic levitation cloak. What had originally been a family of just two had, unnoticed, grown into something quite large. Chapter 213 The Disappearing Witch. "Young master, it's a rare weekend getaway, so at least get up and walk around, right?" Scarlet Maid Wanda puffed her cheeks slightly. She crouched down, leaning close to the boy's face, her small hands softly feeding him orange flesh. Nian couldn't tell if he was eating the orange or the maid. The split orange was delicious and juicy. "It's the weekend, so I deserve a good rest. With such wonderful weather and location, wouldn't it be a waste not to take a nap?" Nian didn't even open his eyes. He rested his head on her long, sleek legs, his mind clearing and body relaxing, his words drawn out like a dream. For ages, his weekends had been spent either battling aliens and other species, or squaring off against mutated leopard girls or green monsters. A biochemical island nation where armed groups across the ocean were rampant, an ancient empire hidden 10,000 meters beneath the sea, a parallel spider-verse where villains formed alliances. From apocalypse to the divine realm. From heaven to Shield. It's only getting more outrageous, not the most outrageous. Is this the daily routine of an ordinary high school student? Nian had almost forgotten what his weekends were like before he encountered the supernatural. "I agree with you, Nian." A spiritual thought shone, and within the transparent glass jar, a humanoid starfish lay, its tentacles raised. "Okay, then I'll go get ready." Wanda, the Crimson Maid, was about to stand up when Nian, eyes closed, reached out and grabbed the slender wrist. With a gentle tug, Wanda let out a startled cry, her crimson hair swaying, the hem of her dress swirling, and she fell back onto the carpet like grass. Her long, soft crimson hair bloomed against the boy's white shirt. "Young master." Wanda, resting her head on Nian's body, froze for a moment. Her pale red eyes reflected the French blue sky, making her face look even softer and more adorable. "Today is a non-work day. Lie down and rest," Nian said confidently. "Yes, young master." Wanda hesitated at first, then the corners of her lips curved upward. She curled up her petite body, resting her head on Nian's chest. On the ground nearby, the phone screen dimmed, entering sleep mode, the letter Z occasionally appearing. Diana smiled knowingly at the boy and girl. She reached out and gently brushed aside the boy's bangs. As she looked up into the distance, a spring breeze blew towards her, blowing Diana's unrestrained, voluptuous black hair slightly. Her delicate, divinely sculpted face was as beautiful as a work of art. Meow. Not far away. The young metamorphosis beast, having tired of playing with the fragile butterflies, set its sights on the elegant, aristocratic magic levitation cloak. The cat and the cloak engaged in a chase, circling the picnic mat area. Who am I? Why am I here? What am I doing? Venom, the symbiote living within the little emperor, continued to question his life, but he knew that given his lowly status in the family, he could only hunker down and sleep. It's the weekend, and the world is at peace. Perfect for lounging. Around noon, the sun broke through the clouds in the city sky, casting a golden glow. A young man and a young woman strolled along a Parisian pedestrian street. The black-haired boy held a small orange cat on his shoulder, while the crimson-haired girl, resembling Little Red Riding Hood in the fairy tale, wore a small red cape. Their combination was a charming androgynous pair. After visiting the Louvre, a French museum, Diana decided to visit a colleague who lived near the museum. She had met her colleague there decades before, now halfway to the grave. So, she temporarily separated from the family group. Knowing that Diana was visiting a collector of historical artifacts and interested in ancient human culture, Luo also joined them. Thus, the family group temporarily split in two. Diana and Luo on one side. On the other side were Nian, Wanda, Xiao Wang, Venom, and Alice. They had agreed to meet at the park in an hour for their trip to Hokkaido, Japan, where they would have dinner and hot springs. Wanda, is there anything you want to buy? Like clothes or something? Nian yawned softly, looking over the bustling and fashionable pedestrian street, his attention focused primarily on women's clothing stores. Well, it wasn't that he wanted to wear anything himself, but rather that he wanted to buy something for Wanda and his aunt. No, Wanda's doll-like face showed a hint of worry, and she pouted, "Master, I already have more clothes than you do at home, and my closet is almost full. Girls, naturally, need more clothes." Nian smiled. He wasn't particular about his own clothes, he just wanted them to be comfortable and fit. As for buying clothes for Wanda and his Aunt Diana, it was like playing a real-life dress-up game. Wouldn't it be awesome? Finally, Wanda was once again dragged into the clothing store by Nian. They bought over a dozen outfits of varying styles, mostly Diana and Wanda's. Nian, on the other hand, chose a casual outfit of his own. He asked Alice to transfer the money. Nian found a corner and placed all the clothes he had bought into the devouring dimension. Then, with Wanda, wearing a Little Red Riding Hood and a magical levitation cape that made her look even more adorable, he emerged from the store. It's almost time to head to the park. Nian glanced down at his phone, which lit up. Alice had already highlighted the screen. Okay, young master. Wanda blinked her jewel-like eyes. Her dress, cape, hat, boots, and even her hair were a vibrant crimson. Only her face, as white and tender as a baby's, was clean and flawless, delicate and delicate. Her petite figure captivated everyone just by moving. So adorable. Nian suddenly wanted to hug her again, but sensing the attention of many people on the pedestrian street, he gave up for the moment. The two left the pedestrian street area and headed back toward the park. Halfway, Nian's brows suddenly furrowed. Perceptive, Wanda curiously asked, "Master, what's wrong?" Nian didn't respond. He looked down at his white shirt, where a faint, yet noticeable, blue light inexplicably emanated. Ling. The silver necklace around his neck trembled slightly, its pendant shifting slightly to the side. This is... Nian's eyes grew serious. The space necklace had awakened for the first time, as if something had resonated with it. The Ancient One had once said that the only thing that could resonate with a space stone was... Nian's heart trembled. It couldn't be right. Somewhere in this city, there was an infinity stone with another quality besides space and mind. Wanda, let's go meet up with my aunt first. Something's not right with this city. Nian stopped abruptly mid-sentence. Beside him lay only the floating cloak. Where was Wanda, the Scarlet Maid? Wanda vanished. Chapter 214, involved in the extraordinary, different gods. When Nian's face changed slightly. Perhaps it was due to his good upbringing, coupled with his many experiences with extraordinary events, that he had developed a calm demeanor. The stranger the situation, the calmer he became. But this time, it was truly bizarre. You see, though Nian was just an ordinary person, he possessed a perfect spider sense, his sensitivity to danger far surpassing that of many extraordinary beings. And just now, with his spider sense, Nian had no idea when Wanda disappeared. Did I fail to react? Nian glanced around, then quickly dismissed the thought. Wanda might be petite, but how could her spider sense fail to detect her sudden disappearance right next to him? It was my perception. Nian's eyes flashed with realization, and he muttered to himself, my perception was disrupted just now. At this thought, he made a quick decision. Alice, text Auntie immediately about what happened here. Nian rushed into a nearby deserted alley, reaching out to grab the cloak that was floating beside him. The cloak automatically slipped onto his body. The moment Nian donned it, the dark red cloak transformed into a stylish red trench coat, and the little emperor slipped inside. Simultaneously, the young man's feet lifted off the ground and floated. The magic levitation cloak requires magical power to function. However, due to its independent consciousness, ordinary people can also use some of its functions through the cloak itself, with its approval, such as transformation and flight. However, without magical power, Nian couldn't control the cloak's flight, so he could only let it carry him, which was slow. Cloak, let's go somewhere first. Nian pulled the dimensional necklace from beneath his clothes. In the sunlight, the necklace pendant shimmered with a cold metallic luster, a faint blue light rippled around it, and the pendant continued to shift and sway in a certain direction. Wanda's disappearance must be connected to the existence of another infinity stone that resonated with the dimensional necklace. Through the dimensional necklace, Nian could find her whereabouts. Although Nian wanted to reunite with his aunt first, the situation was urgent. He had to confirm Wanda's whereabouts first. Understanding Nian's meaning and the urgency of the situation, the magic levitation cloak transformed into a windbreaker, fluttering and carrying Nian into the sky, rapidly flying in the direction indicated by the space pendant. His speed wasn't as fast as that of a Kryptonian or Iron Man, but it was still quite good, only slightly slower than the speed of sound. What's that? Passers-by on the nearby streets looked up in surprise, watching a red figure soar into the sky and disappear into the city skyline in a moment. Paris, France, on the edge of the city. Next to a park, factory buildings stood in a row, making the pedestrian street look extremely deserted. Clap. The clatter of canvas shoes landed. A hint of dust was blown away, and then the back of the red windbreaker draped down. Nian descended from the sky onto a deserted factory building. A sign at the entrance read, "Private property, no trespassing." That should be it. Nian glanced down. The special necklace pendant on his chest grew brighter, a faint blue light even seeping through the white lining, clearly pointing inward. Ignoring the sign, Nian wrapped his windbreaker around him and stepped into the factory. It was deserted, as if it had been abandoned for years. There were no workers, but his spider sense detected the presence of human life, and more than one. Nian immediately headed for a factory building and soon saw a truck abandoned on the empty first floor. 3 young men and 1 woman were playing there. The sudden intrusion startled the 4, but upon seeing they were their peers, they all breathed a sigh of relief. I thought it was the factory manager, one of the black teenagers said, clutching his chest exaggeratedly. Yes, the others echoed. What are you doing here? Nian instinctively sensed something was wrong, his eyes fixed on the truck. Want to know? This is a magical place. The black teenager excitedly started to say something, but stopped in panic. Nian turned around, as if aware of something. 2 other figures entered from outside. They were women, both around 25 years old, of above-average appearance and build. They were dressed in casual attire, jeans, a shirt, and a uniform, and held unidentified detection instruments, slightly larger than their phones. In front was a woman with long, flowing blonde hair and a somewhat capable demeanor. Nian tapped his phone through his pants, and Alice's voice suddenly rang through his Bluetooth headset. Master, the woman in front is Jane Foster, and the one behind is Daisy Louise. Online information indicates they are part of an astrophysics research group, mentored by the renowned astrophysicist Dr. Eric Schalvig. One more thing. Information obtained from the SHIELD database indicates Jane Foster is a friend of Thor's on Earth, with whom he has an ambiguous relationship. Thor's human girlfriend. Nian's mind flashed back to the blonde, hammer-wielding, muscular figure he had encountered during the Battle of New York. Thor, one of the Avengers. Like his aunt, he possessed divine blood. However, there was a difference. Aunt Diana came from Earth's native Greek pantheon, while Thor was a member of the Outer Gods, a lineage promoted by Norse mythology. As far as Nian could remember, his aunt had never mentioned the Outer Gods of Thor's clan. What are you doing here? Jane Foster asked the group of teenagers playing. Using specialized equipment, she had detected unstable radiation parameters in the area. It's just a shabby factory here, what could possibly be there? Beside Jane, her assistant, Louise, smacked her lips in boredom. I'm telling you, don't tell anyone else. The black teenager swallowed nervously. At Jane's nod, he approached the overturned truck at the factory. With a gentle push, the massive truck was easily pushed upward, seemingly defying gravity. This is incredible. Jane and Louise were stunned. Silently observing, Nian narrowed his eyes. His spider sense faintly detected a surge of energy seeping out of space, subverting the gravity of the area. Unfortunately, Guan Luo wasn't there. Otherwise, it could have traced the energy directly to its source. Come with me, there's something even more interesting. I'll show you. The black boy waved and ran towards the stairs with his friends. Silent Nian quickly followed. Jane and Louis, assuming Nian and the black boy were in cahoots, glanced at each other and followed. They ascended the abandoned factory stairs to the 10th floor. Down the stairs, they could see the trucks below. Look! The black boy gestured with an empty can in his hand and tossed it down. Everyone's eyes followed the can downwards. After falling a few meters, the falling can suddenly vanished. The next moment, the can mysteriously appeared above everyone's heads, appearing out of thin air, and continued its free fall. Up and down, repeating several times. On the fourth occasion, the falling can vanished into thin air, never to be seen again. It's truly miraculous. Jane and Louis, bewildered, followed suit, dropping objects down. There were stones, pens, keys, and other objects, some of which bounced up and down repeatedly, others vanished the first time they were thrown. Where do all those vanishing things go? Louis exclaimed in amazement. You ask me, but who should I ask? The black teenager spread his hands. Is there something affecting the space here? Jane muttered. Another thing modern science can't explain. On the field, only the black-haired teenager's eyes flashed with a hint of understanding. The sensation of these objects vanishing was exactly the same as Wanda's, utterly identical. Even though he'd witnessed the objects vanish, there was still a moment's delay in his recognition. It's right here. Upon realizing this, Nian, without hesitation, reached over the banister, his red windbreaker flapping in the wind, and as everyone watched in amazement, he leaped down. Chapter 215, Civilization Cemetery, Two Gods Meet. Oh my god. Is he trying to kill himself? What is he doing? Jane Foster and Daisy Louise cried out in shock, and the children nearby also let out a scream. Whoosh! The red windbreaker draped over him billowed upward, and the black-haired boy, his eyes gleaming, plummeted from the 10th floor with a little orange cat perched on his shoulder. Falling. The stairs of the abandoned factory building kept receding. Until the boy naturally plummeted to the 5th floor, his body seemed to disappear into the void, vanishing like any other object he had thrown down before. Falling. Nian, who had vanished from the abandoned factory building in Paris, reappeared out of thin air in a dark and mysterious area. His body continued to fall naturally, and a black substance like meteorite dust swept past him. Magic flowed. As Nian's words rang out, the hem of his red windbreaker suddenly swung behind him, causing him to freeze in midair for a moment. Together with Xiao Wang, who had peeked his HUD from the collar of his windbreaker, Nian quickly scanned the area where the shuttle had landed. The AI Alice said, Master, there's no signal here. We've left Earth's range. I see that too. Nian nodded solemnly. At a glance, the mysterious, unknown place was gloomy, almost devoid of any light. The area was vast and empty, yet exuded a sense of enclosure. Several black, shattered mountains floated beside Nian, along with countless piles of rubble. Clearly, this wasn't anywhere on Earth. Dark, dead, empty, mysterious, like the graveyard of a cosmic civilization, the air thick with a lingering scent of decay. Air? Nian's mind raced. He had assumed this was somewhere in outer space, the remnants of a planet, but he hadn't expected air to exist. This felt strangely incongruous. This place was filled with strangeness and sinisterness, each and every aspect defying the understanding of modern physics. Buzz! The silver metal necklace hanging around Xinian's neck, its pendant rising from his shirt. Though quickly swatted away by a cat's paw, it still shone with a dazzling, bright blue light. Ripples of blue light spread outward. The dimensional pendant stood like a beacon in the dark sea, radiating a warm, undying light, dispelling the frog-like evil darkness surrounding the young man. Xinian had no desire to determine his exact location. After the dimensional necklace had awakened and dispelled the darkness, the undercurrent of unknown energy seeping outward stabilized, allowing his spider sense to clear. Over there. Xinian pointed toward a nearby, suspended dark mountain. The magic levitation cloak, transformed into a red windbreaker, immediately soared, carrying him into the abyss of the dark mountain. Meow. The little royal cat's eyes shone brightly, and it suddenly called out ahead. Wanda. Xinian saw it too. In the abyss of the mountain, like a tomb of civilization, beside a massive stone pillar, too vast to be constructed by human hands, a crimson-haired girl in a dress lay on the ground. Nian flew down and quickly lifted Wanda's petite, lithe body to its feet. His hands touched the crimson girl's body, feeling a chill, unlike the warmth of a living being. Wanda. I'm here. It's all right now. Nian instinctively gathered his strength, pulling the girl into his arms, warming her with his own body heat. The hem of his red windbreaker swung forward, gently wrapping Wanda's body, along with Nian, to keep her warm. Alice, Nian called. The AI Alice quickly replied, Master, her vital signs are very weak. How could that be? It's only been a short time, and Wanda is a master mage. Her vitality is far greater than that of an ordinary person. Nian's pupils constricted, and he hugged the girl's cold body tightly. Alice, the specific cause cannot be determined at this time. We need to use medical equipment for testing. Medical equipment. Nian suddenly remembered something. He held Wanda with one hand, and without hesitation, reached for the space pendant hanging around his neck with the other. It was a space magic device crafted by the Ancient One using the space gem. It can teleport to places the wearer has visited before, and can bring people with him. As the space pendant lit up, light flowed out from the gaps between the 5 fingers of the palm, and a mysterious blue mist enveloped Xinian, Wanda, and Xia Ahuang. The next moment, they all disappeared from the spot. Washington, First Hospital. This is the nearest hospital Xinian had visited after obtaining the space necklace. The moment the teleportation appeared at the hospital door, the boy, holding the girl, floated up in a red windbreaker. Under Alice's guidance, they entered the operating room from the 6th floor window of the hospital building. The operating room was vacant and fully equipped with medical equipment. Xinian placed the unconscious and weak Wanda on the operating table and prepared to check the equipment as Alice instructed. At that moment, the operating room door suddenly opened from the outside. It was a white doctor in his 30s or 40s, wearing a clean white coat and with graying hair at the temples. He walked into the operating room, looking down at files. Seeing the young man and woman inside, he was startled. What are you doing here? He remembered that there were no patients in the room, it was just a makeshift surgical training room. My family member has fainted. I need to borrow some equipment. Could you please keep quiet? Xinian said bluntly. If they refused to cooperate, he would have to resort to other means, knock them unconscious. In reality, Xia Wang had already quietly crouched in front of the operating room door, behind the white doctor. The white doctor looked at Xinian, then at the blushing girl on the operating table, and said firmly, I'm the most professional in this hospital. Let me help you. Meanwhile, in Paris, in an abandoned factory, Jane and her assistant, Louise, were forced to evacuate the factory building. The local factory manager had already spotted them and called the police, and several police cars were parked in the open space outside the building. We're from the astronomy research team. Instead of focusing on me, you should be more concerned about a missing teenager. Yes, a Chinese boy around 16. Jane was explaining to the police by pulling out her work ID. At that moment, with a rumble of thunder in the sky, the sunny, partly cloudy sky suddenly turned overcast, and a torrential downpour ensued. This sudden downpour instantly drenched the factory manager, the police, and the children, all of whom ran for shelter inside the building. Jane, look! Louise cried out, as if realizing something. Jane noticed it too. She wasn't getting hit by the rain. With no shelter overhead, the rain naturally avoided her. Everyone else, including her assistant Louise, was drenched, revealing the outline of a black coat beneath their shirts. Boom! The thunder roared incessantly. A burly blond man, clad in strange silver armor and a red cape, appeared from nowhere in the factory grounds, holding a hammer. The torrential rain didn't even reach him. Jane. Thor, his hair disheveled, smiled faintly, self-assured of his handsomeness. He was about to step forward, but then he paused, his expression solemn, and glanced sideways, perceptively, toward the other side of the factory grounds. Just then, a tall, elegant woman with dark hair stepped through the doorway, clutching a glass jar containing a dazzling starfish. No rain fell on her either. And not only that, whew. The rain continued to fall, but over the factory grounds, while one side was pouring, not a drop of water fell on the other. The boundary was crystal clear, dividing the factory into two. On the other side of the sky, where the dark-haired woman stood, a pale, crescent moon gracefully and proudly emerged from the gloomy clouds, hanging in the azure sky. Chapter 216, Thunder God Invites a Battle, Beyond Cognition. An abandoned factory. A torrential rain poured down, while a bright moon loomed overhead. The on-site supervisor, local police, astronomers, and childish young men and women, all stared up in amazement at the bizarre yet divine weather phenomenon. Since the advent of Thor, modern scientists have concluded that even the most powerful and legendary gods are merely transcendental races, more advanced than humans. However, when a race becomes powerful enough, their physical abilities and the weapons they create can have a profound impact on the world. They can even affect nature and cause strange phenomena. Are you also a god? But I've never seen you before. Thor raised his gaze with solemn caution, gazing at the dark-haired woman who had appeared at the factory. Dressed in a loose, fashionable white shirt and beige slacks, the woman's tall, graceful figure was perfectly displayed. Her exquisite, stunning face was unparalleled in its coolness, and her voluptuous black hair, draped over her shoulders, accentuated her rare elegance and nobility. That innate nobility, clearly more pure and natural than Thor, clad in silver armor, draped in a cape, wielding a silver hammer, and with his hair disheveled, resembling a berserker. Wasn't the black-haired woman Diana, who had hurriedly followed a location after receiving Nian's message? Diana didn't respond to Thor's words, or perhaps she didn't have the mood or time to pay attention. Guan, is Nian in there? Diana whispered softly, inquiring about the starfish in the glass jar. There's an extremely powerful and strange energy here, disrupting space and cognition in this area. It's incredible. Reality is like a fantasy that completely defies the laws of the universe. Guan stared at the factory building ahead with awe and doubt, responding with his mind, but I can confirm that Nian is definitely not on there. Wait a minute. Guan froze, realizing that strange energy emanating from the factory building. Just now, it disappeared without a trace. Diana's handsome and beautiful eyebrows raised. The heavy rain gradually subsided. You won't answer me. Nearby, Thor shrugged, a bit self-deprecatingly. But soon, as if remembering something, Thor shook the hammer in his right hand, his eyes fixed on Diana, his expression growing serious again. I remember now. Father once told me, on Earth, there's another ancient race that calls themselves gods. So what? Diana frowned slightly and glanced at Thor. She was worried about Nian and Wanda's safety, so she wasn't interested in Thor's background. Thor took a domineering step forward, his messy golden hair flying wildly, his eyes flashing with terrifying lightning. He grinned with fighting spirit, and shouted to Diana not far away, "Take out your weapons. Come and fight me." "Why should I fight you?" Diana's beautiful and stunning face was as cold and calm as ever, but her beautiful eyes were becoming more and more divinely indifferent. If it was an ordinary encounter, it would be fine, but it happened when Nian and Wanda had an unknown change. Thor. Jane ran up to Thor, the god of thunder, and slapped him hard in the face, scolding him rudely. "Where have you been for the past 2 years? I saw you on the news report of the Battle of New York, but you didn't even come to see me. Why are you acting crazy when you see others now? Are you drunk?" Thor was not angry, and smiled awkwardly. The Rainbow Bridge in Asgard was broken before. It has been under repair for the past 2 years. It was not repaired until around the time of the Battle of New York. In addition, There are many civilization disputes on the edge of the 9 realms, which I need to deal with. As for challenging her, I'm not drunk. Thor looked up at Diana and said in a deep voice, although I don't know what happened between the fathers of each other's clans. But my father once warned me once I encounter the descendants of the other side's pantheon, no matter when and where, I must fight with the other side to decide the winner. How can this be? Is this battle inevitable? Jane frowned, but she knew that with Thor's honest and upright character, it was obviously true. This is about the honor of Asgard, and I'm an Asgardian warrior, the future king of the Asgardian realm. It's inevitable. Thor roared with fervor, his aura rising higher and higher, and the sky roared with thunder again. I haven't heard of it. Diana shook her head. She hadn't heard her mother mention the past between the two pantheons, but she herself had no contact with her father's clan either. After her birth, the old Greek gods had died, Mount Olympus had crumbled, and it withdrew from the world stage. That's not important. Show me your weapons. Thor barked at Diana again, challenging her to a fight. I won't kill you, just decide the outcome. Otherwise, you can surrender now. I surrender. What did you say? Thor's fierce aura faltered, and he stared at Diana in stunned silence. I surrender, Diana said, turning and heading out of the factory with Kinluo. The so-called honor of the pantheon, in Diana's eyes, it was far inferior to that man. Are you underestimating me? Thor had clearly misunderstood. He watched Diana leave the factory, and in a rage, he pushed Jane away. Unable to resist, he raised his hammer and lunged forward. Crackling. Come and fight me. Thor's hammer, his silver armor, even his eyes, flashed with flashes of plasma lightning. With the unstoppable force of thunder, he thundered down like a human-shaped lightning bolt, hammering down on Diana's back. Washington, First Central Hospital. The main entrance displayed an operating room with an in-use sign. Nian gently lowered the unconscious Wanda to the floor, laying the Crimson Girl flat on the examination equipment. The girl's face was pale, her breathing unclear, not even her heartbeat. How strange. The White Doctor stood beside the display, looking at the data from the girl's physical examination, his eyes filled with confusion. From the outside, the girl appeared unharmed. But the other person's heartbeat was extremely weak, more than 10 times weaker than that of a typical vegetative patient. The girl's body was merely hypothermic, her blood still circulating slowly, maintaining the tiniest bit of life. It was like a truly living corpse. Stephen Strange, a medical practitioner for over 20 years, had treated countless difficult and complicated cases. He was a top neurosurgeon, and today he was at Washington Hospital to teach. It could be said that in this area of medicine, he was second to none in New York City. The operation wasn't difficult, and he hadn't wanted to take it on yet. But this time, the abnormality of the Scarlet Girl's body was completely beyond Strange's medical knowledge. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 217, Let's Fight. Auntie draws her sword. I can only use an X-ray to see what's going on inside. Strange was pondering when he saw the Scarlet Girl begin to undergo an eye examination using a medical device. This is. Gazing at the X-ray image on the screen, Strange's eyes gradually widened, his face filled with disbelief. At the same time, as if due to the X-rays, the substances within the Scarlet Girl's body began to react. With a swish, a crimson energy surged outward like a tidal wave, centered around Wanda, who lay on the instrument platform. Faced with this sudden energy shockwave, Strange, a mere ordinary person, had no time to react. He stood motionless, watching helplessly as the strange crimson energy wave swept towards him at high speed. Doctor, get down. In the nick of time, Nian tackled Strange to the ground, his red windbreaker covering both of them. In the next instant, the equipment and operating table in the operating room exploded, and the crimson energy wave surged outward, destroying everything. Bang! The operating room's main entrance was also breached, its glass shattering and falling, attracting the attention of many outside and sending many fleeing in panic. Inside the operating room, the crimson energy appeared and vanished as quickly, like a hurricane, without lingering. Unharmed, Nian quickly rose and rushed toward Wanda. Strange then struggled to his feet. He looked around, only to see the operating room in utter disarray. Everything lay broken and piled against the walls, leaving the center of his room completely empty. What had just happened? A suicide bomber? Strange quickly glanced towards Nian's location, only to see a young man lifting a crimson girl from the floor. She was still wearing her perfectly intact red dress, unharmed by the impact. Meow. A small orange kitten leaped onto the empty ground, seemingly unharmed as well. That's right, Strange recalled what he had just seen and quickly addressed Nian. The X-ray images show that a mysterious, liquid-like substance is constantly flowing through her body. Sorry, I've never seen anything this bizarre, so I can't draw any conclusions. A mysterious substance? Nian's mind flashed. He grasped Wanda's small hand and pulled his sleeve up a little. He could see that the fair, tender skin of the girl's slender arm had a translucent sheen, awakened by the X-rays. A faint, unknown crimson energy flowed through her body, like blood. The special necklace swayed and chimed in time. It's a gem. Nian's eyes lit up with realization, and he mentally determined, it's the gem that was there just now that's affecting Wanda's current condition. If that were the case, sending her to any hospital would be pointless. After all, the very existence of gems is one of the ultimate mysteries explored by science. Once it's connected to gems, modern medicine, not even science, can explain it. However, there's a special person who is an expert in this field. If even she can't handle it, then no one on Earth can. With this thought, Nian lifted Wanda into his arms, and Xiao Wang leaped back onto his shoulders. Seeing Nian about to leave, Strange couldn't help but ask, "Where are you going?" "Doctor, thank you for your help. We'll meet again someday." Nian threw down these words, not caring about exposing his extraordinary abilities to ordinary people. He reached out and grasped the dimensional pendant. Blue light emanated from the young man's fingers, and a blue mist enveloped the two people and the cat. For the second time, the dimensional artifact's power was triggered. Under Dr. Strange's startled gaze, the mysterious and eerie blue mist swirled, instantly carrying Nian, Wanda, and Xiao Wang away. In the blink of an eye, the young man and woman vanished from the operating room as if they had evaporated from the face of the earth. With a click, Strange slumped back onto the floor. Just then, several medical staff arrived. "Dr. Strange, are you alright? What the hell just happened here?" Strange, lifted to his feet by two nurses, looked a bit flustered. He had so much he wanted to say, but when he opened his mouth, he didn't know how to begin. What happened today? If I told anyone, they might think I was crazy, right? Strange thought for a moment, then shook his head and said nothing. He had once been a devoted scientist. In an abandoned factory in Paris, France. A radiant divine power. Thor displayed a divine form rivaling the god of thunder. Driven by Mjolnir, he struck the woman as she was about to leave the doorway like a bolt of lightning. A scene that shocked everyone even more occurred, just as the thunder-charged hammer was about to strike the woman's slender back. An ancient, dark gold round shield, emblazoned with strange patterns, appeared out of thin air directly beneath the hammer's impact, its surface ablaze with a hazy golden light. The moment hammer and shield collided, the vast factory fell silent. Then, boom! The lightning and thunder were completely blocked outside the divine shield. The terrifying force of the hammer spread downward, shattering the ground beneath the goddess's boots. The immense energy, power, and even aura of the two clashing hands created a hurricane-like force, sweeping away waves of gravel and dust. Those dozens of meters away could barely open their eyes, as if they weren't even qualified to witness this battle. "Finally, you've taken out your weapons." Thor grinned, his hammer in his right hand continuously pressing against the shield. His tall, muscular frame remained low, looking down from above. Clank! A glass jar tumbled onto the open ground nearby. Starfish Jarluo stared wide-eyed ahead. Beneath the shield, a silver crown adorned her smooth forehead, gleaming with an eternal glow. Her sexy black hair flowed wildly back. Diana was already clad in a crimson gold armor and dress. Her long, graceful arms, each adorned with a pair of bracelets, flexed their muscles, supporting the shield with one hand. In her left hand, she clutched a Greek sword, intricately patterned and gleaming with divine light. That was the true form of the Greek demigod, Wonder Woman. Even though she was forced to defend herself, and gazed upward at her foe, Wonder Woman remained beautiful and noble, wild and graceful, her aura no less impressive than that of the towering, bellicose Thor. Even a clay figure can be hot-tempered. And what about the demigod Diana? Born into a noble royal family, she'd always revered and cherished battle, possessing the unyielding fighting spirit of the Amazons. When Diana transformed from her mortal form into Wonder Woman's true form, she had bravely faced Superman and Doomsday before, and the starlit crown she wore would never allow her to yield. "Fight if you want," Wonder Woman coldly addressed Thor, stepping forward and unsheathing the Vulcan sword. Chapter 218 Nian's Choice, the third magical weapon. A blue mist of light billowed out of the space, revealing the figure of a black-haired boy. Clad in a red trench coat, he clutched the pendant, his arms clasped around the unconscious Crimson Girl. A small orange cat rested on his shoulder. Nian looked around. He found himself in the main hall, reminiscent of a Western church. Ahead, a dimly lit, spotless, vintage wooden staircase sat at the corner, a strange piece of furniture resembling a pot or cauldron. Behind him, the modern streets outside bustled with traffic, yet not a trace of noise filtered into the room, as if the place were secluded from the world. Quiet, clean, sacred. This place was the New York Sanctuary. Success. Nian breathed a sigh of relief. He knew that while the building was located in New York City and had a detailed address, the New York Sanctuary was enshrined in protective spells, and entry was prohibited without the permission of the sanctuary's guardian. Fortunately, this was the first location recorded by the special necklace. Furthermore, the magical artifact, crafted with a space stone as its core, had extremely high priority, clearly ignoring the New York Sanctuary's protective spells. "Wanda, you'll be fine, you'll definitely be fine." Nian glanced down at the girl in his arms, then shouted directly into the sanctuary, "Master Ancient One, are you here? Guardian, Master Daniel. Where are you? Is anyone there?" His voice echoed through the sanctuary. However, there was no response from within. Nian, having relaxed a little, tensed up again, a sense of foreboding. It was bad. He remembered that the Ancient One had said a few days ago that after borrowing the Mind Stone, one would need to retreat and cultivate for a period of time. And mage sanctuaries like the one in New York usually have a guardian stationed there. If that guardian wasn't there, there would be no other mage. After all, this wasn't Kamartaj, that was the mage's headquarters, the place for retreat and cultivation. And therein lay the problem. After obtaining the special necklace, Nian hadn't visited Kamartaj, so the necklace naturally didn't register at teleportation point. Otherwise, for today's second teleportation, Nian would definitely have used it at Kamartaj, not the second best option, the New York Sanctuary. "Master Daniel. Mr. Daniel." Nian repeatedly called out the name of the guardian of the New York Sanctuary. He swiftly sprinted through the main hall and corridors of the first floor, his red windbreaker carrying him up the stairs to the second floor. But the second floor of the sanctuary was deserted, devoid of any mage. Nian's heart sank. He already knew the guardian of the New York Sanctuary wasn't there. Otherwise, with the sanctuary's guardian's abilities, they should have sensed it the moment he entered the sanctuary. This was truly the worst-case scenario. He had hoped to contact the Ancient One by finding the guardian, but he didn't expect the guardian to be even in the sanctuary. Now, he was on his own. "Meow." Little Emperor suddenly called out to Wanda in his arms. Nian quickly glanced over and noticed the crimson energy emanating from Wanda's body becoming increasingly pronounced. Under these circumstances, the girl's originally cool temperature suddenly reached an abnormally high temperature. Every strand of Wanda's unfurled crimson hair was stained with crimson energy. This wasn't a sign of improvement, but more like a prelude to a complete energy outburst. "We must eliminate or suppress the gem energy within her." Nian took a deep breath, forcing himself to calm down, and first glanced at the little emperor lying on his shoulder. He had an idea: to transform into symbiote mode, parasitize Wanda's body, and try to counteract the gem energy. The best approach would be to force the gem energy out of Wanda. Nian wasn't sure if this method would work. In symbiote mode, he himself would be equivalent to a source of energy. He was afraid that the gem energy would become agitated and stressed as soon as he began to parasitize. Another thing was, if he successfully parasitized Wanda, could he truly withstand the unknown gem energy? If anything went wrong, he would have no chance of a comeback. Besides parasitism, are there any other methods? Nian muttered to himself. Wanda's condition was deteriorating, as if she were holding a small scarlet stove. He didn't have time to think. A decision had to be made. "Little Emperor." Xinian gritted his teeth. He was about to say something when a flash of inspiration struck him. Of course, this is the New York sanctuary. Even if the resident wizard is gone, everything else is still there. Xinian carried Wanda and quickly ran down the corridor, arriving at a storage room resembling a museum exhibition hall. The dragon-toothed sword, Agamotto's crystal ball, Vadam's wand. The sheer number of strange and bizarre magical artifacts was dizzying. Mofu. Quick. What magical artifact can help me now? Xinian asked quickly, not choosing to try. Those who understand magical artifacts best naturally know about them. Hearing Xinian's words, the man in the red trench coat hesitated, then tugged the boy by the arm, leading him to a glass counter. Xinian looked up. A long, vibrant red cloth hung in the air within a single glass counter, looking even less like a magical weapon than a boot or an axe. Xinian recalled this. He'd finally noticed it when selecting magical weapons, but before he could ask the Ancient One, it was snatched away by the magical cloak. The cloth-like magical weapon, its name, function, and origin were all unknown. Can this save Wanda? Xinian gestured with his eyes. Suddenly, an orange figure flashed through the air, slapping down with a dark, cat-like claw. The sealed glass counter shattered with a clang. Xinian reached out to grab the red cloth, but it flew off on its own, landing on Wanda in his arms. Whoosh, the red cloth spun rapidly in the air, like a wheel of fire, binding her crimson hair like a headband. After the red cloth was tied into a ponytail, the crimson energy raging beneath Wanda's body was suppressed and calmed as Xinian watched in astonishment. The high temperature dropped to its original low temperature, and the thick aura of destruction gradually faded. This cloth really works, Xinian exhaled. Although he hadn't been able to extract the crimson energy, it had clearly stabilized it temporarily. Strangely, Wanda still hadn't regained consciousness. Go back and reunite with my aunt, and we'll discuss countermeasures together. Thinking this, Xinian reached out and grasped the pendant once again. This was the third time today, using a special artifact. 5 minutes later, a black mage in monk's robes, holding a staff, appeared in the second-floor lobby of the New York sanctuary. He was startled to see the scattered glass shards and the traces of cat paw prints on the floor. What happened? The guardian of the New York sanctuary, Mage Daniel, was confused. He had only been out for half an hour, and before leaving, he had cast a spell to reinforce the sanctuary's defenses. Someone had entered the second floor of the sanctuary and stolen a magical artifact without disturbing the defenses? Wait, the stolen magic weapon is... Master Daniel's face changed and he looked pale. Chapter 219 Wonder Woman vs. Thor. Under a dark cloud-covered sky, above the empty space of an abandoned factory, trample, trample, trample. The concrete surface shattered once more as the two sides charged, leaving no trace of the ground intact. To the left, a tall, powerful figure wielded a warhammer, his red cape fluttering, his entire body ablaze with lightning and thunder. To the right, another tall, graceful figure wielded a sword and shield, her black hair and skirt swaying, her beautiful eyes gleaming with a terrifying divine light. Whoosh, the two moved at speeds beyond human vision, like fleeting flashes of lightning, after images. Norse and Greek mythology. The gods recorded in mythology and legends, and the demigods descended from the bloodline of Zeus. When deities from different pantheons clashed, what was clearly a clash of cold weapons like hammers, swords, and shields unfolded as a terrifying scene akin to missile bombardment. For example, at this moment, Wonder Woman and Thor collided head-on once again. The moment the shield and hammer clashed, it was like a massive explosion, the air bursting outward in a wave of impact that felt like a physical force. Debris flew hundreds of meters away, and the dust wave blinded everyone on the field. Every move, every blow, was devastating. What are you still looking at? Run. Jane knew Thor was serious this time, and that this was just a warm-up. When the real fight came, anyone caught in it would be dead or crippled. Jane immediately grabbed her assistant, Lewis, and evacuated the factory with the children. The factory manager and the police on the scene, not even caring about the police car, ran faster than Jane and Lewis. This was a true battle between gods, beyond the reach of Earth's laws. Seeing the other man block his hammer blow with his shield again, with such ease, Thor couldn't help but show surprise. He was holding Mjolnir. It is also the symbol of power for the future king of Asgard, the divine realm. Wielding this hammer grants the power of the god of thunder and the crowning of king. Thor, the god of thunder, once conquered the universe. Countless alien civilizations, so-called fighting races, the strongest of the powerful, could crush entire hordes with a single blow of their hammer. Yet, this time, Mjolnir's multiple blows were blocked by the shield, failing to inflict any significant damage. This was only natural. After all, Wonder Woman was also wielding a divine weapon, the Amazon shield. Ineffective? Thor ignored the allure. His powerful right arm swung Mjolnir furiously, hammering at the shield like hammering iron. The furious blows were like a torrential downpour, each one carrying the might of thunder. Clang clang clang. Wonder Woman held the resounding Amazon shield steady, but the ground beneath her feet gave way first, and her feet sank slowly into the earth. "I'll hammer you right into the ground." She sensed Thor's intention. Wonder Woman wasn't simply defending. Or rather, from the very beginning, she hadn't intended to be purely defensive. From the moment Thor attacked her, Wonder Woman was determined to defeat him. Her knees threatened to sink into the ground. Wonder Woman remained motionless, her right hand holding the Amazon shield, her eyes sharp as a hunter's spies. As Thor switched his hammer attack, with barely a tenth of a second to spare, now, Wonder Woman suddenly used the Amazon shield to deflect Thor's hammer. Leaping forward with her tall body, her left hand still gripping the charged Vulcan sword, she stepped forward and slashed. Air, dust, atoms, everything in its path was slashed by the sword's edge. So fast. Thor was startled. Although he dodged in time, he was still a step too late. Swish. A flash of silver light, and the Vulcan sword's edge ripped open Thor's armor, spilling blood. A single sword shatters divine armor. Come. Thor didn't even grunt in pain. Wounded, he swung Mjolnir at full speed. The hammer distorted like a helicopter propeller, and the instant he raised his hand, it unleashed boundless gusts of wind and lightning, and then Thor swung the rapidly spinning Mjolnir forward like a ranged weapon, transforming it into a bolt of lightning that struck Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman reacted with swiftness, raising her shield to defend herself. But this time, she couldn't block it. Bang! A sonic boom echoed low over the factory grounds. Mjolnir, the Amazon shield, and Wonder Woman, sword-wielding, were all sent flying backwards, slamming into the large factory building behind them. Shattering several layers of walls and supporting columns, the hammer slammed into the deepest recesses of the factory. That aegis of yours can only neutralize energy attacks, right? What a pity. My Mjolnir is not only powerful in energy, it also possesses unparalleled power. Thor smiled towards the depths of the factory. He spread his right hand, and Mjolnir instantly flew out at breakneck speed. But soon, Thor saw a golden lasso wrapped around the returning Mjolnir. The lasso, radiating divine light, tightly bound the handle of Mjolnir. The other end of the lasso sank into the factory. Pulled back by Mjolnir's return, a tall, beautiful figure emerged, bearing the blade of Wonder Woman. Along with Wonder Woman, a hint of the cold gleam of her sword appeared. Even from dozens of meters away, the chill was palpable. A strike to the vitals would clearly kill even a divine being. Thor's eyes widened in shock. He hadn't expected Wonder Woman to recover so quickly, and to strike even more decisively than he had. Fortunately, after countless battles, his combat reflexes had become instinctive. For Asgard. The moment Thor grasped the returned Mjolnir, he slammed it forward. His momentum instantly reached its peak, and his roar resounded over the factory. At this moment, Wonder Woman, clutching the lasso of truth in her right hand and the sword in her left, had no Amazon shield to block the hammer's blow. Without hesitation or regret, Wonder Woman's eyes gleamed as she leaped down, thrusting forward with the Vulcan sword. The sword and the hammer. Each embodied the full force and divine power of the other. This single blow would determine victory, perhaps even life or death. At that moment, bang! A rainbow beam descended from the dark clouds above the shattered dome, enveloping both men. Before they could determine the final outcome, the rainbow beam pulled both bodies away from Earth. At the same time, at the factory building entrance next to the battlefield, a red figure, moving at breakneck speed, plunged headfirst into the rainbow beam. Hey, take me with you. A nearby starfish in a glass jar, its spirit trembling, shouted to the figure with its mind. As soon as the words left its mouth, a rainbow beam of light vanished faster than a shooting star, plunging upward into the infinite universe deep in the sky, leaving only a circular imprint in its place. Let me explain. I wanted to burst out, but I got stuck, so I'm writing even slower than usual. Greek letter epsilon equals Greek letter omicron. Chapter 220 Wanda's Soul, Ascending to the Divine Realm. At this moment, the cemetery of civilization, previously connected to the abandoned factory due to the interference of the unknown gem's energy, remained as dark and silent as ever after Nian's departure, devoid of any life or movement. Whoosh, it felt like a flicker of light and shadow. In the empty space, awash with countless meteorite dust, a petite figure loomed, drifting freely like a gust of wind, leaving not even the dust disturbed in its path. Her waist-length crimson hair flowed freely, her fair, childish face tinged with a hint of distress. Her formless body, wrapped in a red dress, her delicate, pink feet lifted back in the air. Wasn't that Wanda, the Scarlet Maid? No. More accurately, it was Wanda's soul. Time flashback 10 minutes. Little Wanda, separated from Nian under unknown circumstances and forcibly transported here, accidentally touched a stone pillar, and her body became parasitic, infected by the crimson energy within. The overwhelming, strange crimson energy within her body continued to interfere with her physical form, preventing her from properly channeling her magic and leaving her too weak to move. Naturally, Wanda couldn't open the portal back to Earth. So, the Scarlet Maid devised another way to save herself, to leave her body behind. Temporarily abandoning the influence of her body, she could explore the spatial region in her soul, searching for a way back to Earth. This was a valid idea. However, she was utterly unpredictable. As soon as Wanda's soul reached a point not far from her body, she sensed it had been moved. She quickly returned to her original location, only to watch a blue mist swirl and vanish. In the center of the mist lay the dark-haired youth, cradling her body, his back to her. "Master, wait for me." Wanda's soul leaped forward, but found nothing. Nian had already departed with her body. Perhaps even Nian was unaware of this. This was the single biggest reason why Wanda's physical form on his side couldn't be revived. What should I do now? The girl's soul, a delicate, doll-like face, was filled with anguish. After Nian's departure with this special artifact, the subtle perception maintained by her spirit body made the distance between her soul and her current body seem unbearable. With her body, carrying the gem's energy along with her, this space was no longer connected to Earth. Although nothing could impede the soul, save for special energies and spells, its movement was slow, barely faster than the wind, making interstellar travel difficult. Of course, theoretically, if the body were struck by energy, the soul would be drawn back to the body. However, the unknown gem's energy within Wanda's body had the property of disrupting cognition, creating this strange situation. Soul and body were separated by countless star regions. I must reunite with the young master as soon as possible. Wanda's soul floated in the air above the tomb of civilization, pondering a solution, when a strange noise suddenly rang out from behind her. "Hey, what's going on?" Wanda's soul quickly hid in a nearby meteorite. In fact, in her current state, even if someone approached, it would be difficult for anyone to detect her. As Wanda's soul watched in disbelief, several massive black mountains, floating in the center of the shattered tomb of a civilization, suddenly trembled violently, countless black rubble peeling off. The outermost layer of meteorite shattered, revealing a smooth, flat, dark metal shell beneath. Bits of crimson energy shone from beneath the metal shell, flowing along mechanically defined lines, its engines activating to generate wave energy. Each black mountain resembled a massive alien warship. Beyond the massive black mountains, dozens of large meteorites within this vast, empty tomb of civilization also shed their skins, revealing blade-shaped hovercrafts within. Hidden above the tomb of civilization was an entire alien warship fleet, now awakening. Wanda's soul took a deep breath, clenched her fists, and swiftly flew towards an alien warship. The alien warship's metal shell was rendered useless, not even triggering an alarm. The disembodied girl's soul escaped into it. It's time. Within the bridge of one of the alien warships, an ancient being revived. He whispered hoarsely, "We've been silent for so many years. It's time to reclaim our race's glory and return darkness to the universe. Target, Asgard. First, obtain the ether. Earth, sun, galaxies. Stars gleaming with light, black holes devouring light. Galaxies nurturing civilization, chaos annihilating stars." Everything was rapidly receding, vanishing in a flash. Like a sonic boom tunnel, it was difficult to measure even in light years. In an instant, rainbow light traversed countless interstellar regions, like a bridge spanning the universe, reaching the ultimate realm beyond the 9 realms deep within the starry sky. Bang! Bang! A towering figure wielding Thor's hammer, and a graceful figure wielding Excalibur, crashed first onto the long, shimmering rainbow bridge. Thor rolled several times on the smooth rainbow bridge, steadied himself, and stood up, hammer in hand. Wonder Woman plunged her sword into the rainbow bridge, a deep cut marking it, halting her trajectory. Has anyone intruded into the Divine Realm? Heimdall, the Divine Realm's gatekeeper, hurried out of the Divine Realm's portal and gazed upon the woman's back as she landed on the Divine Realm's diplomatic bridge. Before he could ponder further, at the last moment as the rainbow beam faded, a third figure crashed onto the bridge. Heimdall's eyes widened. It was a large object wrapped in a red cloak. The cloak departed on its own, revealing a dark-haired youth sitting inside, a small orange cat resting on his shoulder, a crimson-haired girl in his arms. Stowaways, and more than one. Heimdall's eyes narrowed. Smuggling into the Divine Realm right before the gatekeeper's eyes, how could they tolerate this? Why did you pull me back? Thor growled, his voice etched with emotion, his voice unresigned. That last strike could have decided the outcome. Let's continue. Thor, Mjolnir in hand, addressed Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman ignored him, instead glancing back at the young man behind her. The sharpness and indifference in Diana's beautiful eyes faded, and without hesitation, she turned and stepped forward, looking down at Wanda in Nian's arms and asking, "Are you okay?" "I'm fine. It's just that Wanda's body has been invaded by an energy substance, and she's in a very bad state." Nian spoke quickly, letting out a breath. "Luckily, we made it." During their third teleportation via the space artifact, returning to the abandoned factory in Paris, France, Nian happened to see the rainbow bridge descend and envelop his end, so he used the magic levitation cloak to carry them inside. They caught the last train of the rainbow beam. Chapter 221 Nian and Wonder Woman. The family finally reunited. Where is this? Nian looked around. The rainbow beam had brought them to a place called a rainbow bridge, made of an unknown material. Beneath the bridge lay a vast lake, as vast as the ocean. Above, a boundless, radiant starry sky. Perhaps due to the low level of local exhaust pollution, or perhaps due to the proximity to the heavens, the radiance of each star was clearly visible, a sight rarely seen on Earth. Behind them, of course, was the end of the rainbow bridge, its gateway. Nian stared forward. The rainbow bridge itself was flat and straight, extending for several kilometers to its source. What greeted Nian and the little emperor was a series of majestic golden palaces, standing like a forest of skyscrapers, towering proudly into the glittering starry sky. Behind the golden palaces, an eternal light shone upon them, the glow like halos, giving the palaces a solemn and sacred appearance. This is above the 9 realms. The Divine Realm, Asgard. A long sword in hand, the gatekeeper emerged from the Divine Realm's portal building behind him. His eyes, deep and penetrating, seemed to see through everything. He glared coldly at Wonder Woman, Nian, and the others. "You have trespassed into the Divine Realm without permission. You are already invaders. Heimdall, don't fight me. She's my match. Besides, you can't beat her," Thor declared domineeringly, taking a few steps forward and shouting at Wonder Woman, "We haven't decided the winner yet. Come again. Regardless of the outcome, I'll let you go after this." His tone was bold and straightforward, yet the arrogance of an Asgardian god king still lingered in his voice. Thor felt that if the rainbow bridge hadn't interrupted the battle, he would have already won. Therefore, he refused to accept it. After all, if they stopped here, wouldn't the battle be a draw? "Do you want to continue?" Wonder Woman's face turned cold. Meanwhile, inside Asgard, the clatter of footsteps echoed. Armored warriors, wielding staves, swords, spears, hammers, and more, each one akin to a warrior from an ancient Norse painting, rushed over along the rainbow bridge to support them. Thousands upon thousands of them, a force worthy of conquering a civilization. "Thor. Your Highness. Are you alright, Thor?" They gazed at Thor with admiration and awe, then glanced cautiously at Wonder Woman and Nian with hostility, ready to strike. Wonder Woman, clutching the lasso of truth in one hand and the Vulcan sword in the other, used her tall, imposing form to block Nian and Wanda. "I'll fight you, don't involve anyone else," Diana said calmly. "I don't intend for them to fight either." Thor waved his hand, signaling the Asgardian warriors behind him to stop. "Stay away, just watch. You and Wanda stay here, it'll be over soon," Wonder Woman whispered back to Nian. "And, are you hurt?" As if sensing something, Nian grabbed Diana's right wrist. Diana didn't want him to see, but sensing the boy's assertive attitude, she could only cooperate by turning around. The woman's graceful, exposed right shoulder bore a distinct scrape, scorched black by the lightning strike, striking against her snow-white frame. Nian paused, a wave of emotion welling up within him, difficult to suppress. "It's just a small injury, I'm fine." Diana smiled soothingly. "Don't you see the other guy's wounds are worse than mine? Come on." Thor, ignoring the wound on his chest, stepped forward, swinging his hammer rapidly. "It's you, right?" Without waiting for Wonder Woman to respond, Nian suddenly looked at the god of thunder. The dark-haired boy's face remained perfectly calm, and no one could tell what he was thinking. "What is it?" Thor, whose attention had been fixed on Wonder Woman, only glanced at Nian briefly. Noticing the young man was mortal, he quickly looked away. "Sorry, I didn't notice you." "Yet. It's normal you don't remember." Nian shook his head. At that time, he was in a different state. But none of that mattered now. He watched as Aunt Diana advanced to meet the battle. Nian unfolded his magic levitation cloak like a tent, enveloping himself in Wanda, also blocking any insight from the outside divine realm. Nian removed the special necklace from his neck and placed it on the small orange cat beside him. Its eyes, pierced with pupils, gazed at him intently. "You two, keep an eye on Wanda," Nian instructed. The corners of the magic levitation cloak swayed on their own, as if in response. Xiao Wang nodded. "Before that, Xiao Wang, let me have a go at that first," the black-haired boy said calmly. He brought his left hand to his mouth, licked the back of his hand with his tongue, and then offered it to Xiao Wang. Without hesitation, the little emperor opened his mouth and bit down on the back of his hand. With his iron body, Nian could no longer bleed. However, through this method, a medium exchange could still be achieved. Even if it was only indirect, it was enough. As the little emperor bit Nian's hand, strands of dark, evil liquid oozed from the tips of his tiny teeth, merging unimpeded into Nian's body. Master of the familiar. Conditions met. Triggering targets, the devourer cub and the venom symbiote. Asgard, in the divine realm. Everyone's attention was focused on Wonder Woman and Thor. No one cared what a mortal and a cat were doing, or what they could do. And so, as Thor and Wonder Woman faced off, about to engage in their second battle, swish! A stream of black light burst from beneath the cloak, dashing towards Diana's back like a water arrow at incredible speed. Wonder Woman Diana's body trembled slightly, clearly sensing a foreign object entering her divine form. Yet, her body showed no resistance, feeling a familiar presence. As the host, Diana instinctively complied. The black liquid quickly merged into Wonder Woman's body. "I told you to stay back, but you're becoming increasingly disobedient." Diana muttered to herself, her beautiful eyes softening as the corners of her lips curled slightly. "Auntie, I'll let you fight. I'm just a tool to buff you." A thought surfaced in her mind. It was Nian. More precisely, Nian in the form of the devouring metamorphosis. However, this time, Nian didn't use Xiao Wang as the ultimate host for the Trinity. Instead, he parasitized Wonder Woman, the demigod's body. This was Nian's long-held dream, and today he was putting it into action for the first time. Venom, devouring metamorphosis, and demigod powers. A unique trinity of Nian and Wonder Woman. Chapter 222 The Perfect Trinity, the Strongest God? Asgard, on the Rainbow Bridge. Surrounded by Thor, Gatekeeper Heimdall, and a host of Asgardian warriors, Wonder Woman muttered inexplicably, wielding the sword of Vulcan and the lasso of truth. Her bright, intelligent eyes betrayed a hint of helplessness, but the corners of her delicate lips curled up in a beautiful curve. The silver wrist guards on her hands shone with a golden light. "Are you ready?" Seeing this, Thor's expression grew grave, his muscles bulging beneath his armor as he gripped the artifact, Mjolnir, tightly. From the previous battle on Earth, he knew the enemy was incredibly powerful. One of the strongest foes he had ever encountered in his quest across the universe. A battle worthy of his undivided attention and all his might. Unfortunately, what Thor didn't know was, now, Wonder Woman's hands guarded the silver bracelets, which awakened and shone autonomously. This wasn't a gathering of energy or preparation for battle, but rather a suppression of Diana's own physical strength, a power that suddenly multiplied countless times, threatening to break through a certain limit. Nian, possessing the unique abilities of symbiote and element devourer, two alien races, as he had said, entered Wonder Woman's body like a buff. Wonder Woman closed her eyes, without resistance, as if surrendering her soul and body, accepting the symbiote, Nian, as her own. I am your deity. I trust you absolutely. One person, one God. Each other's power, life, future, destiny, soul, body, everything. As if they had been inseparable for years, this symbiotic union felt no contradiction or conflict, but rather a natural and harmonious union, as if born from the beginning. In an instant, Wonder Woman's demigod body, blessed by the gods, experienced an unprecedented transformation in the divine realm beyond Earth. Buzz! Under the stunned gaze of the divine realm spectators, the guardian silver bracelet's restless awakening roared, as if blazing with golden flames. The wristband itself was now invisible, its grip firmly locked around his hands like a divine aura. At this moment, even Nian, who had just parasitized his aunt's body, was unsure how their symbiosis would unfold. However, since the last time the Guardian Silver Bracelet's divine artifact awakened, when he had acquired the abilities of both Spider and Catwoman, the combined power of both apex predators had instilled a feral and bloodthirsty nature in him, a power suppressed by the Guardian Silver Bracelet's divinity. This time, despite the same suppression of internal power, the Guardian Silver Bracelet's reaction was over 10 times more intense than before, and with a pair complete. Almost succeeded. Nian communicated with his aunt through his mind. He had originally assumed that the combined power would cause his aunt's appearance to change, and he had urged her to be mentally prepared. After all, in the past, Nian, possessing other abilities, might have seen his hair and eyes change color, or his body coated in a dark protective layer like a symbiote, or even sprout ferocious tentacles reminiscent of the Devourer clan. The more complex his abilities, the more varied his form. However, this time, the situation was far beyond his expectations. What happened? Thor was stunned. He could sense the other person's aura, weakening. That's right. Both his aura and the divine energy emanating from him were steadily decreasing and fading. In less than 3 seconds, Wonder Woman, standing still, slowly opened her eyes. Her beautiful eyes were as bright as ever, but like her physical appearance, they remained unchanged. Or perhaps it could be said to be unchanged. Her aura had completely transformed into that of an ordinary person. If it weren't for the Amazon armor dress she wore and the sword she held, Wonder Woman would now be just another ordinary person in a strangely cosplay costume. She lacked the fierce and powerful aura, the overwhelming aura. Her exposed flesh was far less radiant than when displaying divine power, and her eyes no longer gleamed with divine light. Her voluptuous black hair cascaded lazily over her shoulders. The flame of the protective silver bracelet on Wonder Woman's wrist had completely extinguished, as if she had lost her divinity. Symbiosis successful. 3-in-1, main body, Wonder Woman. The 3-in-1 Wonder Woman glanced down at her body, a flicker of confusion in her eyes. Why am I in control of this body in this mode? Yes. Right now, the one in control of the current 3-in-1 body was clearly Nian. Since Nian had taken over, he hadn't intended to fight for control of the body, he simply wanted to control his aunt's state. Now, Diana, the original host, had voluntarily handed over control of the 3-in-1 body. Diana's sweet voice echoed in Nian's mind, didn't you say, at home, small matters are yours, big matters are mine. So, this time, I'll leave it to you. Is this incident a small matter? Nian was at a loss for words. With a thought, and with the help of his aunt, he instantly understood the current state of his body in his 3-in-1 mode. So, that's how it is. Nian muttered to himself. For his own merging state with his aunt, the current situation seemed like a minor matter. Don't you want to fight anymore? Are you giving up again? Thor glared at Wonder Woman before him. Cloaked in a red cape, he now looked like a raging bull. Who said that? Wonder Woman shook her head slightly, casually retracting her lasso of truth and returning the sword of Vulcan to her back. Come on. Unarmed, Wonder Woman raised her finger, signaling to Thor, who was wielding Mjolnir, the battle may begin. This time, it wasn't Diana Prince or Wonder Woman fighting alone. It was Prince, a family consisting of only 2 people, who was fighting. No weapons, are you humiliating me? Thor's golden hair flew wildly as he took a step forward, his fury palpable as thunder roared in the sky. Isn't this perfectly natural? Princess shrugged, a mocking expression never before seen in her time as Wonder Woman. Behind Thor, the warriors of the Asgardian realm were equally furious, shouting out in sympathy, "Thor, teach her a lesson. Teach her a lesson. Show her the ultimate strength of Asgard." "Of course." Thor growled, his eyes gleaming with lightning as he raised his hammer, unleashing a thunderbolt of lightning. His aura, strength, divine power, and skill reached their peak. And not just externally. Thor could feel the roar of lightning plasma coursing deep within him. This formidable foe had for the first time allowed him to unleash his full potential. Come. Thor, the god of thunder, seemed to transform into the thunder of the nine realms, carrying divine might as he charged towards the godlike, mortal-like prince. "Thor, something's wrong." Gatekeeper Heimdall stared intently at Prince. His race's eyes could see beyond the nine realms, perceiving the essence of all things in the universe, and at that moment, he seemed to grasp something. Thor, of course, heard the gatekeeper's words, but he showed no sign of stopping. He was now at his most powerful. For the ultimate honor of Asgard, how could he possibly retreat or stop? In a flash, Thor, his aura and strength at their peak, approached Prince and swung down Mjolnir, woven with countless bolts of lightning. Boom! Across Asgard, the roar of thunder could be heard. Thunder crashed. Prince stood motionless, his beautiful eyes watching the hammer, tinged with thunder, approach even closer. At the last moment, Wonder Woman, parasitically controlled by Nian, a trinity of man and god, raised her empty right hand. Boom! A blazing, blinding white light engulfed everything on the rainbow bridge, leaving only a tall, perfectly formed figure standing tall. How is this possible? Everyone on the rainbow bridge was stunned, staring at the scene before them in disbelief. This isn't right. Thor, the god of thunder, who had taken the initiative, felt as if struck by lightning, unable to believe his eyes. Mjolnir, embodied with all its divine power and might, carrying the thunder and might of the artifact itself, symbolizing Asgard's supreme authority, was held in place by a graceful, white hand. Prince's cold, beautiful face remained expressionless, and he caught Mjolnir with his bare hands, appearing even more effortless than when he had previously defended himself with the Amazon shield. That's it. Nian's soul, through his aunt's body, gazed at Thor, hammer in hand. Prince's ordinary, mortal right hand extended, grasping a corner of Mjolnir's hammerhead. Then, his slender fingers suddenly contracted, and cracks immediately appeared on Mjolnir. The rainbow bridge was utterly silent. With a crack as clear as thunder, fragments of the hammer rained down onto the bridge. Mjolnir, shattered? Countless people in the divine realm, including the gatekeepers, felt a sense of deja vu. It was as if the sky had fallen. That was Mjolnir. Mjolnir. Not only was it a renowned artifact of Asgard, but more importantly, it symbolized Asgard's supreme power. Whoever held it was the next king of Asgard. The second prince, the evil god Loki, had tried many times to lift it, but he couldn't, and he lost the throne of Asgard with great reluctance. And now, this Mjolnir, the hammer that had sparked the struggle for the throne and swept across the nine realms, had been crushed by someone with bare hands? Whoosh! Prince blew gently, clearing the shattered Mjolnir from his right hand. Thor, dazed, stared at the artifact, now only the handle remaining. His tall, powerful body couldn't help but tremble slightly. Thor was startled. Was he afraid? So, was this what fear felt like? Mjolnir was gone. Thor's eyes dimmed, as if the light had been drained out. But as the future king of Asgard, nothing could stop him from moving forward. Fight, don't let the battle stop. As long as the battle continues, he will remain undefeated. Holding the remaining handle of Mjolnir, Thor's unyielding body instinctively yearned for battle as it lunged at Prince. But the other's hand quickly grasped his wrist. His slender, white fingers, like a lock made of divine material, made it impossible to break free. There was no chance of escape. The next moment, bang! Thor's body made close contact with the solid surface of the rainbow bridge. The once invincible god of thunder was lying face first on the rainbow bridge. This was only the beginning. Under Nian's control, tinged with resentment, Wonder Woman, now a triune demigod, grasped Thor's hand, lifting him up and slamming him to the ground again and again. It was you, the one who just injured my aunt, right? Nian chuckled, venting his anger. Even if the other party had injured him, Nian wouldn't have been so furious. His aunt was his Achilles heel, mutual obedience, mutual defense. In the divine realm, on the bridge. Boom. 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 Each blow caused the rainbow bridge to tremble slightly. Prince lifted Thor like a chicken and slammed him against the rainbow bridge. Then, he lifted him high and swung him back and forth, repeatedly and forcefully. Crack! The surface of the rainbow bridge cracked like a spider web, sinking slightly, and brilliant streams of energy overflowed from the crater. The rainbow bridge fell into complete silence, and thousands of divine realm warriors stared blankly ahead in stunned silence. At the hands of Prince, who seemed like an ordinary human, devoid of any divine power, Thor, without his hammer, was as weak as a baby, powerless to fight back. He was lifted up and swung repeatedly onto the recently rebuilt, yet damaged, rainbow bridge. Stop, stop. Finally, a beautiful female warrior on the battlefield cried out in agony. Let him go, my aunt's mind whispered softly. Prince nodded and casually tossed Thor aside. Nian didn't kill him, but he had at least returned the favor tenfold. Thor's mouth and nose were now bleeding, unconscious. The wound on his chest had opened a little further, and blood was gushing out like a fountain. No divine power, no divine weapon, just sheer physical strength to crush him. This was the power of the current Trinity. Unlike the previous Trinity. Due to the nature of the symbiont, Nian's previous Trinity could only utilize the young Emperor of the Devourer cub as a host, parasitizing it and exerting its power. This was clearly a forced choice. Thus, under the influence of the symbiote and the Devourer's racial abilities, as well as the Devourer's host body, Nian's temperament could easily degenerate into evil. Flaws proved this model was imperfect. It wasn't the optimal and most suitable configuration of abilities. And this time, Nian, possessing the sinister symbiote and Devourer abilities, switched his final host from Xiao Wang to his own aunt, Wonder Woman. Evil, suppressed by his indifferent divinity, was perfectly balanced. Without interfering with his temperament and spirit, the Man of Steel, the demigod, the symbiote, the combined power of the body reached a terrifying level of strength. With the assistance of his Aunt Diana, his divine power was perfectly contained, making him no different from an ordinary person in combat. Using Nian's own understanding, Prince's current 3-in-1 physique boasted a physical defense superior to that of a Kryptonian and second only to their physical strength. But when other artifacts, divine power, Devourer, and other multiple tools were added to the equation, his overall combat power was immense. Above Superman Carl, below super deification mode. Most importantly, this current 3-in-1 mode is completely devoid of side effects. Whether it's temperament, physique, or abilities, they've all reached a perfect level, with no apparent weaknesses. This is the perfect trinity unexpectedly created with the right combination of abilities. Prince. Chapter 223 The Invincible Prince, for and. Prince, the trinity of Nian and Wonder Woman, had just casually tossed Thor onto the rainbow bridge. A whirlwind of air-piercing echoed behind him. The tip of the sword, undoubtedly faster than sound, instantly pierced through the gap next to the Vulcan sword he carried, striking Prince's bare back, uncovered by his Amazon armor. Standing motionless, Prince slowly turned her head, gazing at the two-handed sword piercing her back. This two-handed sword was clearly no ordinary artifact. Its handle was forged of gold, its blade as smooth and gleaming as a mirror, its blade reflecting the light and shadows of the divine realm's starry sky. The wielder of this two-handed sword was a being even more massive and powerful than Thor, clad in golden horn armor. Heimdall, the guardian of Asgard and the Rainbow Bridge, was the king. The only gateway to the outer universe from the divine realm was the Rainbow Bridge, spanning the 9 realms. Guarding this entrance to the Rainbow Bridge was a single figure, the gatekeeper, Heimdall. The reason Heimdall has been the sole gatekeeper of the divine realm for millennia is not only because his clan possesses the ability to see into the 9 realms, but also because he possesses the power to wield the sword that activates the Rainbow Bridge portal. Therefore, he is Asgard's first line of defense, the only other barrier besides the divine realm's shield. If an invasion even Heimdall cannot prevent occurs, it means Asgard is in dire straits. Excellent sword, Prince exclaimed softly. Nian, controlling the divine body at the moment, could sense that the two-handed sword that pierced him contained divine power comparable to, or even exceeding, that of Thor's hammer. The instant the sword was struck, it traversed space, leaving even Prince unable to react. Unfortunately, he encountered this situation. Heimdall's silver-white eyes widened. He stepped onto the Rainbow Bridge, his hands tightly gripping the sword, his tall body maintaining a thrusting forward motion. A single bead of sweat slid down his dark face and dripped onto the bridge. The tip of the rainbow sword did indeed strike the opponent's torso, but it came to rest squarely on the perfectly curved back, the muscles denting ever so slightly, unable to penetrate even the snow-white, supple skin. At that moment, Heimdall felt as if his rainbow sword had struck a supremely powerful defensive artifact. The rainbow sword's inherent divine energy was instantly devoured by the even more powerful and vast divine power lurking within the opponent. Thor's defeat was well deserved. This fellow was a monster through and through. Even Heimdall, the gatekeeper, was terrified by Prince's presence. He had only witnessed such beings a few times in the vast 9 realms. So, without hesitation, Heimdall seized the opportunity before Prince could strike back and swung the rainbow sword upwards with both hands. He wasn't trying to force the opponent back or injure him. Instead, boom. As Heimdall swung his sword, a rainbow beam suddenly appeared, enveloping Prince's figure and surging upward toward the starry horizon of the Divine Realm's dome. Exile, underworld. Heimdall's eyes were bloodshot, his sword hand trembling violently, barely able to grip the golden hilt. Opening the rainbow bridge in Asgard with his divine sword alone, without passing through the portal, would be beyond even his power. But if this happened, it would be the end. Now, in the underworld, a region of the universe shrouded in darkness and deathly silence. Chains of gold stretched from the desolate, pitch-black earth, converging in all directions. At their ends, bound was a graceful, mature figure shrouded in the dark mist. A woman in a black robe remained sealed in a deep sleep. Her skin was too white, and against her voluptuous figure, she appeared alluring and pale. As if startled, the woman opened her eyes, slightly looking up, gazing at the rainbow-lit night above. "Oh, Rainbow Bridge, is someone coming to keep me company?" The woman's alluring voice held an indescribable dominance and indifference, as if nothing could possibly surprise her. But, a few seconds later, only the rainbow light shone, and no being was teleported. Asgard, on the Rainbow Bridge. Why weren't you? Heimdall, sword in hand, froze in his spot, staring blankly ahead in shock. There, black hair fluttered in the air. Prince stood at the center of the rainbow beam, her graceful form bathed in the radiance, unmoved. "You can teleport people and objects to other places, right?" Prince smiled and asked, "Have you ever tried to teleport the entire universe?" "The entire universe?" Heimdall was stunned. "Yes, the entire universe." Prince nodded calmly. The element devourers possess a dimension within their bodies, equivalent to the size of a universe. Therefore, after reaching adulthood, element devourers possess special abilities. Now, although Nian only possessed the abilities of an element devourer cub, he possessed a dimensional space. Even if he couldn't yet actively use his special gifts, who could force him to leave if he refused? To teleport Prince away would require at least a force that transcended the universe. The rainbow beam dissipated into a stream of light. "I surrender, wholeheartedly." Heimdall sighed, lowering his head, shrouded in golden horn armor, sheathed the rainbow divine sword, and stepped back. He had tried his best. With his own abilities, he couldn't stop the enemy. "What about you? Do you want to try too?" Prince slowly turned, gazing at the tens of thousands of divine realm warriors on the wide, straight rainbow bridge. She bore the sword of the god of fire, facing the divine realm alone. "Aren't you all proud? Aren't you so high and mighty? Don't you consider yourselves the masters of the 9 realms? Don't you want Diana to bow her head? Now, anyone who refuses, come and fight." Tisk. The lasso of truth emerged from the void, spinning once, forming a crescent moon in the air behind Prince. Previously, Nian, in her super deified state, was like a dazzling sun, annihilating everything in her path. Now, Prince was unrivaled in his pride, akin to no other god in the universe who could even look up to her. Thor's hammer was shattered, Thor was defeated, the gatekeeper conceded. Everything happened so quickly. Some of the warriors in the divine realm had barely digested the information, but facing Prince's overwhelming force, they gritted their teeth and gripped their weapons. Even if they faced defeat, death, there was no reason to give up the fight. For Asgard. Someone shouted first, and then countless others joined in. For Asgard. The roar echoed like a war drum across the divine realm, breaking through the clouds. Charge. Like a flood breaking through a dam, the warriors of the divine realm unleashed their divine flames, sweeping towards Prince. Prince shook his head and reached out to grip the hilt of the Vulcan sword behind him. Nian also had a reason not to give in, for his end. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 224 Odin, your time is over. Stop. Just as Prince drew his sword, about to face tens of thousands of divine realm warriors, a deep, aged voice echoed from behind the rainbow bridge. This voice, imbued with an indescribable majesty, drowned out the roars and shouts of the tens of thousands of divine realm warriors. At this voice, even the divine realm warriors, their eyes red and their arrows on the bowstring, stopped in their tracks, all standing a few meters in front of Prince. Their faces shone with enthusiasm and admiration, and they instantly transformed into a well-trained army, marching in unison to clear a passageway. The scene was awe-inspiring. Tens of thousands of divine realm warriors surged aside like a tide, and the passageway stretched to the golden Asgard at the end. Standing before the Asgard was an elderly figure. He wore golden armor similar to that of Thor, the god of thunder, and a golden eye patch on his right eye, leaving only his left eye gleaming with life. Despite his graying hair and the marks of time on his face, he possessed a vibrant energy that belied no one of old age. He held a golden scepter, a red cape draped over his shoulders, resembling a king. That's... Yes. Tens of thousands of years ago, he appeared on Earth and joined forces with the old gods to repel the forces of the apocalypse. Diana's thoughts seemed to materialize. She embraced Nian's mind-body and whispered softly in his ear, Odin, the god king of Norse mythology. Sure enough, if you beat the smaller ones, the bigger ones will flee. This is an eternal and unchanging universal truth, Nian couldn't help but grumble. But even if it was Odin, the god king, so what? The age of the old gods is over. Odin's time has long passed. The fact that he couldn't control the evil god Loki, allowing him to start a war on Earth, showed that Odin had aged. Prince's expression remained unchanged. He grasped the sword of fire in his right hand. The magical floating cloak wrapped around Wanda and the little emperor, floating behind her. Odin approached, his steps resolute and powerful, his presence imbued with a sense of authority. The warriors of the Asgard knelt in greeting. Soon, God King Odin reached Prince. Gatekeeper Heimdall, sword drawn, stepped forward and saluted, God King. On the rainbow bridge, no one stood except Prince and Odin. The exception was Thor, the god of thunder, who lay prone. Odin remained silent. He glanced at the unconscious Thor with his left eye and commanded, take him to the Hall of the Aesir. Yes. Immediately, several of Thor's personal guards stepped forward, lifted the severely injured and unconscious Thor, and carried him along the rainbow bridge to a building in Asgard. What's your name? Odin's penetrating gaze finally rested on Prince. Shouldn't you state your own name before asking for someone else's? Prince and Odin exchanged glances. Many warriors in the divine realm immediately reacted with even greater fury. How dare you disrespect the God King? No problem. Odin shook his head and said solemnly, my name is Odin. The moment these words rang out, the entire divine realm shook, trembling in submission. Diana Prince said. You resemble that person from back then. Odin gazed at Prince nearby, raised his golden scepter, and calmly asked, will you fight me? Prince's expression hardened. Nian felt the pressure. Yes. The perfect triadic mode, now exerting a considerable pressure on the now senile elder. The spider sense, heightened along with his demigod form, now also clearly sensed energy. Nian could sense it clearly. This was a stark contrast to his current state of perfectly restrained divine power and might. Standing before him, Odin seemed to merge with the divine realm, harnessing the full might of the divine realm. This opponent was dangerous. Horizontal ellipsis. Diana's gentle, calm words echoed in Nian's heart at the perfect moment. If we fight with all our might, we might kill the other side, but we're definitely not much better off either. We might die, or at least be seriously injured. Besides, there's Wanda, Nian. I know. Nian had always known that if it were his end, for them, for the sake of this family, he would probably choose to yield. A proud and noble head would rather be lowered, even the status of a god could be tarnished. Since Paradise Island, Nian had been learning how to hold his head high, because the crown would fall. And Diana had been learning how to bow her head, because while the crown is important, Sometimes it doesn't have to be so important, as long as it's worth it. And Nian made a decision. Odin. Prince's eyes brightened, and she raised the Vulcan sword, saying seriously, "This is a battle between you and me. Regardless of victory or defeat, I hope that no harm will come to the others who are traveling with me." "Who is she to you?" Odin looked at the crimson girl and the orange cat wrapped in the magic levitation cloak behind Prince. "Family," Prince replied firmly. "Is that so? I see." Odin muttered thoughtfully, then shook his head and lowered the golden scepter. "We lost." What did you say?" Prince was stunned, and the other Asgardians' eyes widened, momentarily unable to believe their ears. "We Asgard lost, and you Olympians won." Odin's words seemed to age, a sense of vicissitudes. "Come with me. I'll tell you about what happened back then." Odin turned and walked towards Asgard. After a few steps, he turned back and said, "That girl's condition is very strange. We have the Aesir Hall in Asgard, with the elven wizards who should be able to save her." Prince watched Odin's back. "Auntie, what do you think? Is this a trick?" Nian communicated with his aunt through his mind. Diana responded, "No. Just based on Odin's name, even if he's deceiving, he won't surrender first and lose Asgard's honor. Then, trust him for once." Prince donned the magical levitation cloak and followed the god King Odin in front of him. In Asgard's palace, above the palace, Odin sat on the golden throne, and Prince stood in the center of the vast main hall. Apart from the two, the vast hall was empty. Wanda, still unconscious, had been taken to the Asgard palace for treatment. To be on the safe side, Nian had specially assigned the little emperor and the magical levitation cloak to keep watch, alerting them immediately if anything unusual happened. "Your fathers probably didn't tell you, did they?" Odin stared at Prince and said in a deep voice with reminiscence, "Tens of thousands of years ago, before I became the king of Asgard. At that time, Asgard almost listed half of the universe as its territory, and divided it into 9 realms by the world tree. It is our clan's responsibility to ensure that the 9 realms do not interfere with each other and maintain long-term peace and stability. As a result, only the extraordinary clan born on Earth, the human world, is your Olympus clan. After the founding of Mount Olympus, your clan not only wanted to break out of the Earth, but also wanted to break the pattern of the 9 realms, saying that the universe is originally one, so why isolate and separate them? Due to different philosophies, our two clans have been in constant conflict, and we even don't recognize each other's identity as gods. Until 50,000 years ago. Not long after I became the king of Asgard, the forces of Apocalypse invaded the Earth on a large scale, which eventually led to Asgard and Olympus joining forces. That was the first and only time the two races of gods joined forces." Odin said here, raised a finger, his single eye deep and majestic, and said to Prince, "After expelling the Apocalypse forces, I reached an agreement with Zeus, the god king of Mount Olympus at the time." Chapter 225, God's Agreement, Odin's Sword. Odin and Zeus. One is the god king of Asgard, the divine realm, the other is the god king who founded Mount Olympus. One is the lord of the 9 realms, including Earth, the other is a deity born from Earth itself, perhaps the most powerful. Each god king leads a clan of self-proclaimed gods, who forged the myths and legends of different pantheons on Earth, Norse, Greek, etc. For humans, they are mythical supreme beings, totems of faith. Due to the differing philosophies of the two great god clans, one seeking stability while the other seeks to disrupt the order, constant conflict and strife ensues. They question each other's identity, calling each other outer gods and false gods, competing for the faith of Earth's humanity. Until the massive invasion of the Apocalypse, the two races united. After the war, Odin and Zeus, representing their respective clans, signed a special agreement. The specific contents of the agreement are perhaps known only to Odin and Zeus themselves. However, Prince, the symbiotic union of Nian and Diana, recalling their previous encounter, he had already guessed some of the terms of the agreement. "You intend to place the outcome of the two pantheons on the shoulders of the new generation of gods," Prince said calmly. "Indeed." Odin, seated on his throne, his penetrating single eye fixed on Prince, speaking with authority without anger, "It's called an agreement, but it's also a bet. Having fought side by side, we no longer wish to see the conflict between the two races continue indefinitely. We have decided to transfer the outcome to the next generation. Whoever's descendants are stronger will ultimately triumph. The old gods' grievances and hopes for the future will be entrusted to the new generation." This. Nian was stunned by this. Could this be the reason Zeus, in Greek mythology, went on a spree of creating humans? What nonsense. Diana used her mind to quickly disabuse Nian of his unhealthy thoughts. Over 5,000 years ago, due to internal strife, your Mount Olympus began to decline. I had thought the agreement between the two races had ended there. Odin paused, then sighed. To my surprise, Zeus's bloodline still survives. You have triumphed over my son, Thor, the next lord of Asgard. This also means that your race has won the final victory, a bet that spanned tens of thousands of years. Odin's aged and majestic words echoed endlessly in the main hall of Asgard. He reached for his waist and untied the golden sword he was wearing. Staring at the sword in its golden scabbard, Odin felt a sense of reluctance, but finally reached out and tossed his sword forward. Snap! Prince caught the sword with one hand. The sword was almost the same size and length as the Vulcan sword he held in one hand, and its craftsmanship was incredibly fine, imbued with a golden, holy aura. His spider sense could sense the powerful energy contained within, revealing it to be a divine weapon. Odin's voice sounded considerably more weary. He waved his hand, saying, "Take it. That's the sword I've worn since becoming king of Asgard, conquering the 9 realms. This is the wager I lost on the pact. Then I won't hold back." Prince hung Odin's sword at his waist. Together with the unsheathed Vulcan sword at his back, they formed 2 sword-shaped arcs, one gold and one silver. It seemed quite fitting. Watching Prince, bearing both swords, leave the main hall of Asgard, Odin's single eye narrowed slightly. Finally, with an inexplicable emotion, he murmured softly, "Zeus. Our pact has only just begun. If she really gets that far," cough cough. Odin suddenly covered his mouth with his hand. His aged body trembled violently, and he doubled over, his frosty white hair and beard trembling. A heavy cough echoed through the vast, majestic golden main hall, unnoticed. A long moment passed. God King Odin's other hand tightly grasped the golden scepter, supporting himself. Now is not the time to collapse. In the underworld. With a crack, several golden chains cracked and then broke. A dark, corrosive mist of energy spread outward, lingering, continuing to erode the dense, numerous golden chains around them. "Old man, you're almost overwhelmed." The black-robed woman sneered. "I'll wait, waiting for the day when your time comes." Prince walked into a hall in the Asgard palace. As soon as he stepped inside, "No need for treatment, I'm healed." A harsh, impatient voice echoed, and a golden-haired man in silver armor and a red cape stepped out. Although blood-stained, he appeared completely unharmed. He waved his hand to separate several robed witches from the surrounding area. "It's you." Upon seeing Prince enter the hall, Thor's expression suddenly changed, his muscles tensing like thorns. Not only had his cherished Mjolnir vanished, but he had also been knocked to the ground in an instant, leaving him feeling a lingering dizziness. This was a truth that Thor, the self-proclaimed supreme being, found hard to accept. He could lose, but not so utterly, so powerlessly. "What, you still want to fight? Feel free." Prince smiled faintly, possessing Diana's grace and composure, combined with Nian's straightforwardness and youthful spirit. "If you want to fight, then let's fight. Just prepare another artifact." How could Thor tolerate this? He was always the one to challenge others, but only this time, repeatedly outmatched by one man. But soon, Thor, as if realizing something, suddenly widened his eyes, fixed his gaze on the area below Prince's waist. A golden sword adorned that slender waist looked strikingly familiar. "How did you get that sword?" Thor's eyes were filled with astonishment, a surprise he hadn't even felt when Mjolnir shattered. Clearly, in his mind, this sword, merely a secondary weapon, held greater importance than Mjolnir itself. "This? Odin gave it to me," Prince said bluntly, glancing down at the sword. "How is that possible?" "That's..." Thor couldn't comprehend, much less accept it. He couldn't help but step forward. But soon, a voice called out, "Thor. Father." Thor paused and looked behind him. There, a figure, also draped in a red cape, entered the hall. It was Odin. "Father, Mjolnir, and that sword." Thor suddenly grew anxious, wanting to tell Odin what had happened. "I know everything," Odin interrupted, motioning to Prince, "Go in first." Prince ignored the father and son, walked past Thor, and entered the inner hall of the Aesir. Compared to other matters, now, Nian and Diana care more about Wanda's safety. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.